Looks like we're live.
Wow, it's working.
Beautiful. All right, guys. Welcome to the very first official Real News Guys live stream. Jared and I are here enjoying, or about to be enjoying, some fine cigars. I think that in celebration of this new show we have here, I wanted to crack open something quite special, if that's okay with you. Obviously, you don't have any reservations about this, but we're going to be enjoying some San Parai cigars here. I'm cracking open the Royal Coronation, which means it's got 5 of their main cigars from the corn line: the blue, the red, the purple. Which one do you want?
You said 5, but you named 3.
5 of each.
All right, good, good.
Yeah.
I know you go with like blue, so
You know me so well. I'm going with blue, and you're going with red, aren't you?
yeah, I'll go with red.
Absolutely. Some fine premium smokes for a couple guys like us. We're going to be enjoying the best of the best. So there it is. Throw this over here so it's out of our way. The Blue Pyramid has been one of my favorites for a while. So I'm going to crack that open. And I'm actually going to change it up a bit. Since this is a happy time, I'm going to be enjoying some tequila. Finish off the bottle.
Rare that you'd see me drinking tequila. I'm a big whiskey guy, whether it's bourbon or scotch. I'm having something special.
Very good.
And today we're doing 10th Mountain Whiskey for me.
The single malt, I believe, right?
I believe it is.
Well, they made our...
I'm shocked we still have some left, but I'm glad we do.
Changing the bit rate here, they put it too high. I put a new profile in here, so they changed the settings. Hopefully that fixes it. Yep, it's already working much better. They like to put you on 10,000 bit rate, which is crazy for our setup. We should be good now. Now there should be no more lag. I'm gonna go ahead and light this up with my Cigar Bro lighter. V-cut. Get this show rolling. All right. I think we're good now. Let's go ahead and pull up some stuff. I know that we talked about this on our pre-show, which is not aired. But today, supposedly, Trump and his team is supposed to meet with Vladimir Putin and his guys out in Alaska. Nice middle ground, sort of.
Well, it's still in our territory. But I mean, in theory, when it freezes over, Alaska does connect to Russia. So, in a personal thing, I think that's a good thing for us. I think it's great that Trump and Putin can talk, even though mainstream media was against it. But with mainstream media being controlled, anything they usually say, doing the exact opposite, you're pretty safe.
Yeah. Well, too, I mean, it's former Russian territory, technically.
Yeah.
Now, the United States. So, it's like, you know. But yeah, basically, they're supposed to be doing that today. I think he left at 6:45 this morning. From what I saw.
And I think that Alaska's 5 hours behind anyways. I could be wrong. Or at least 4 hours.
6 or something like that. Yeah. Actually, I don't know. You might be right. I think 4.
Well, California's 3 hours.
Yeah.
So.
Forget how close it really is. I always think about like how far Hawaii is because that's 6 hours.
Oh, yeah.
But
maybe overguessed. I think what's important here is that we're getting world leaders to speak to each other. I think everyone's sitting down at the exact same time. Obviously, hasn't worked for the past, Jesus Christ, 5 years. Seeing the fact we're in 2025, Biden couldn't do it, Trump's working on it. Let's just be honest. This would have never happened from 2017 to 2021 when Trump was in his first term. So I just think that, like, if they could talk privately, Trump and Zelensky already tried to talk. Obviously, we all saw how that went. So now it's going to be Trump and Putin. Hoping to get everyone back on the negotiating table in the upcoming maybe weeks.
yeah, I mean, it seems like the way I see it, every time it looks like they're about to make peace, something happens. And what we've seen now is that last night, there was another Ukrainian drone attack, apparently the largest drone attack against Russia, which goes back to what I just said, which is like right before they're about to have peace talks or something. It looks like something might happen. There's another drone strike or missile strike or something that happens, and that's what we're seeing now.
I think it's funny you say that because at the end of the day, if you read headlines from mainstream media, it keeps you in this like teetering or oscillating pendulum. We are constantly focused on a resolution or closure, or it's going to finally end, and then something else happens, which creates more drama, keeps you locked in, and then refocus on tuning into social media, which always fails you into thinking that something's going to be some type of finality. But we're not seeing that ever. I think over time we're going to see it, whether it's Ukraine giving up some land, or there's a compromise between Ukraine and Russia, or maybe the United States takes over, which we should not be getting more involved in virtually anything else.
No.
So
Yeah, I think, and we might have talked about this yesterday, but that region of Ukraine has been prominently Russian influenced, or a lot of Russians live there. They speak Russian, and I think ultimately what will probably happen is Ukraine, like you said, will be forced to give up some of their land.
yeah, I don't know how you think about it, to be honest with you. The way I see the Russia and Ukraine situation is exactly a precursor to what you're going to see with China and Taiwan, because the Taiwanese people also speak a dialect of like Mandarin. I know they're a sovereign country separated from China, but what I'm simply saying is the matter of fact of the day is that there's a possibility of those cultures colliding. So like China wants to take over Taiwan, just like Russia. From what the mainstream media says, may look like they want to take over Ukraine. I don't think they want to take over all of Ukraine.
Right.
But I think years ago they used to own it anyways. I just think there's some resources and some things that could be compromisable that would benefit both sides. The fact that we too are Americans having to comment on this anyways is kind of mind-blowing. We shouldn't have put our nose in this anyways.
Yeah.
I'm not saying allow a genocide. I'm just saying that funding any side of any war, I think, is not for us anymore.
Right. And you really don't see other countries getting as involved with outside conflicts as we do. Obviously, the term world police has been used for the United States for quite some time, always getting their troops involved in different conflicts that at least look like they don't involve us, but especially when it comes to the Ukraine situation, we're finding out that Ukraine is essentially a proxy country of the United States, and politicians from the past, and most likely still current ones, have been using quote-unquote diplomacy to profit off of it. We've seen politicians launder money through there. We've seen the adrenochrome situation being coming out of Ukraine. So it almost makes you question when you bring up the Taiwan thing, is Taiwan also essentially a proxy country of the United States, and it's a similar situation to what's going on with Ukraine and Russia?
I think that's a really good question, because I'm so sick and tired of how a few years ago they were telling us how we need to get involved in the China and Taiwan situation to make sure we have the chips saved, right? And we saw prices increase, other things happen, and yet a few years later, now we're in 2025, we haven't seen much of a chip shortage, but of an increase in price. It's almost as if they want the United States to get involved there as well, in which we probably might end up having to do something. Hopefully it's more of diplomacy versus physical troops on the ground. And I think if Trump was president back in the 2020 election, we would have never had troops on the ground, or even giving any funding or weapons to Ukraine or either side.
Mm-hmm.
I think another thing too to look at is what's funny is that if we don't have troops on the ground, we end up funding them or just giving weapons anyways. Our hands are involved in some which way, which I think we really have to focus on why this happens and how to prevent it in the future. Which, regardless, I don't care if you voted left or right, we should not be involving ourselves. We have homeless here, veterans who are homeless as well, and all the medical problems we suffer in America too.
Yeah, I guess if we truly lived in a utopian society and everything was perfect here, we could, with good intentions, maybe help other nations, but obviously that's not what's going on today. And like you said too, with the whole Trump in his first term, no new wars, peace throughout his entire term, and now we're seeing it almost looks like him trying to clean up. And granted, he said that this war would be over on day one. Obviously, that's not the case. So was this conflict too far gone for him to fix as easily as he thought, or is he not fit to end this conflict as quickly as he believed? What are your thoughts on that?
I think the Ukraine-Russian war is a cover-up for something much bigger. I think they're wasting a lot of time on biolabs there. Individuals. Even CNN reported on how they're like leftover Nazis from, well, I guess that'd be years from now, or prior to this, that are still there. If the most left-wing politics can say stuff like that, we should pull these articles up ourselves. What is to be said of the actual war? The fact of the matter, we have our own United States news corporations that can actually go somehow report in a live war in Ukraine is mind-blowing to me. And the fact that I've actually worked with people who are Ukrainian and on camera and are there, coding as a software engineer, yet a live war is going on. I'm not saying there is no war. What I'm saying is simply as the fact matters, what is actually happening? Who's funding who? Where are the weapons going? Where is the funding going? What sides are really involved, and how do we put a stop to it? We really can't just keep funding wars. We don't want anyone to die. We don't want anyone to perish. We really want to put an end to it. Mm-hmm. But similar to the Israeli-Palestine and Gaza issue, where do you draw a tight line where people stop dying and then territories have a strict line drawn? I think that's the real issue moving forward.
Yeah, I think that sticking to the Ukraine-Russian war, it seems like that war has taken place in a specific region of Ukraine/Russia, and it hasn't really expanded from that region.
Yeah,
so to your point,
exactly.
It sounds like the war is real, so to say, but their intentions aren't to actually obliterate. Russia's not going to obliterate Ukraine, let's say, and Ukraine hasn't advanced into other parts of Russia that we've seen or know of. So it almost does look like it's a staged battleground where they're going to keep fighting there, so that way they're not actually impacting, civilians that live in the other parts. But it's a staged battleground that they're keeping there so that, for example, people can continue to launder their money through there, and the weapons keep going in, and that's essentially what it is.
Well, that's a great point you brought up. Similar to what Trump bombed recently, Iran, where they have these type of warheads that hit a building, drilled through, then it blew up underground, where buildings were damaged, but lives were essentially saved in such a way there's not a lot of people that actually were affected by it. But the mainstream media can report on it in such a negative way that scares everybody.
Right. The bombs didn't melt steel, is what you're saying.
God, no. Just like in 20-something years ago. But what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, I think the real things we have to focus on are the executive orders that Trump signs, the Federal Register that actually registers them or not as an executive action or executive, order, in actual laws and acts that are being signed into law. So I think if we could really focus on things that are actually happening. Hate to be the C-SPAN guy here, but the non-discriminate individual who can look at a wide lens at everything and kind of absorb it in slowly. What you'll find is that what the mainstream media, which again, you vote left or right, I don't care. It doesn't matter. I'm tired of distractions. I'm tired of headlines. You have to really get back into the details and like natural reporting. I think what we'll find there is like, I mean, you see this all everywhere. We talked about this the other day. Like, look at DC. Like, everyone's so like, oh, they're cleaning up the homeless. It's like, well, you could do that anywhere. Another great point I saw brought up was the fact is like, if like Trump did January 6th, which I don't believe, how come he couldn't call in the police then? But now you see he's doing it now, which I think this time he had to do it in a different way, where he had to get approval to bring in the police, where before he asked for it and it was denied. I think this time it's a little different, but I think that maybe other things are happening. I don't really know. Like, what do you think about it?
No, I mean, there's definitely too many coincidences or too many holes. Like, you brought up a great example. He wasn't able to bring in like the National Guard, let's say, for January 6th, but he can do so now. And the details of how it's being done are slightly different. But
does the Republicans own the House, right?
currently, yeah.
Because prior to that, for January 6th,
Nancy Pelosi was able to.
The Democrats denied him. So that's a huge standpoint right there.
Right, and two, it's like if this was a legitimate concern, why would they deny National Guard? And then all of a sudden, when January 6th happens, they're like, oh no, they're breaking into the buildings and they're going to harm us. I mean, obviously, we all know that that was essentially staged, and the feds were in on it, and were able to rile up people to essentially enter the Capitol, but of course not actually do anything. I mean, we've seen the videos. They're all walking in, being ushered in. There was no real Capitol Police stopping it, aside from the one person that actually ended up dying from it, which is crazy.
Yeah, but we don't have the birth or death certificate of this individual.
Right.
Another thing, too, is that it's sad to see the feds encourage people. I think those people really believe what they're doing. But as an individual myself, and I'm guessing you can agree, I would have never, ever gone in there myself. Especially when Trump posted on Twitter, back when it was Twitter, to not approach the Capitol. And he gave a whole speech on there.
Right.
And then they blocked him for a while, which was wild. Or deactivated his account, you know.
I think it was, I mean, looking at it from our eyes, an obvious setup, but it's understandable to see people there on the ground who were pissed, people that were really in, like, the MAGA cult, so to say, could be easily influenced to do that and be used as the fall guys, essentially, because people did go to prison for this for years. People that really didn't do anything. So I could see it happening. I could see how they were tricked into doing it.
That's a great point you brought up, because the fact of the matter is a lot of people were brought into a county jail in D.C. And it was like supposedly hundreds of people, but like they were kept there for years without ever seeing a judge,
Right.
which I don't understand. Why lawsuits? You know, who are all those people? Like, where is it happening now? Or maybe it'd be a class action lawsuit later, which is ideal, so it carries a lot more weight. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot of details that are being hidden from us, whether it's the mainstream media hiding them or the government themselves. Because, I mean, and we've talked about this before, like the whole Epstein thing. We thought that this would be a new administration coming in and it would be exposing all these details. And then you have different theories about how there has to be a plan in place. It has to be done in stages. But it seems like the current administration is still holding back information or hiding information. And it almost feels like it's just they're playing a game where it's like Cash Patel will come out and say, well, we have this information. But then nothing ever actually comes from it. So it's like, is there a plan where they do intend to release this information and it's just taking longer than we had hoped for? Or is it a game of back and forth where it's like, yeah, we have this information, and then a few days go by and it's like, all right, the population forgot about it. And then next week it's like, well, we have this too, and we'll get more into that after.
Yeah, if Trump wasn't president, I completely agree where is distraction after distraction. Like, oh, we have an investigation. It's going to last like 3 years. Shut up and forget about it. And then till the next investigation comes.
Right. And that's what they did to Trump, too. It was a lot of
we've seen this happen.
bombshells that came out. Trump's the Russian P tapes, Russian collusion, the porn star. I can't think of her name right now.
Yeah, because no one's
Stormy
heard
Daniels.
of her. Yeah.
Stormy Daniels. And then it's just a narrative in order to get the people to be against him, so to say.
Yeah,
Which really, the mainstream media's whole purpose essentially today is to slander someone's name or someone's image to turn the people against them. And Trump was really the first person that was able to fight that. Especially we saw in his first term and Biden's first term, where no matter what came out, his support was growing and growing tremendously because people were realizing, well, this wasn't true, and then this one wasn't true, and then this one wasn't true. So every time you see something come out about Trump, it's like, well, that's probably not true either.
What's great about Trump is that since he already has money, you can't really slander him or really...
Like he has nothing to lose.
Yeah, he has nothing really to lose. I mean, worst case scenario, he loses the election and he goes back to golfing every day if he wants to. But he can golf every day, be president, and do better decisions than obviously the past president, if you want to call him one. I don't think you can really blackmail Trump, at least in a way that's logical to the mainstream public or the mainstream media themselves. Obviously, it wouldn't be money. It's not going to be women. So, it has to be something else. And threatening his family, I'm not really sure. He can provide the physical protection that they need. So it has to be something that we don't really know. So I think for him, it's more or less, at least for me, my perspective, is that he's hired to be president for 4 years. So we have to give him 4 years. So from my personal opinion, is I detach myself from the outcome until it's done. So I don't think him coming and arresting like Hillary Clinton his first term would have made any sense, even though she should be a long time ago. But if he did that, it would come off as if he's going after his political opponents. But if she's already demonized by other people, and they didn't even run her in 2020, she's already lost everything. Who cares if she's still a millionaire? She's already lost. So I don't think that at the end of the day, you're going to go after everybody who slandered you, made fun of you, or tried to hurt you. Because he's already insulated. He's protected. I think the military has him backed up. I think True Patriots back him up. I think he has a MAGA base that's pretty large. I think he has an online community that also backs him up. There are other things. So going back to Kash Patel, I think he's young. Actor or not, obviously not a good actor. I'm not saying anything negative against him. I don't think he may be in position of the FBI, but he doesn't have the power to declass and release everything. I think there's a time and place for everything. But what you do notice with I guess we can say the minor fumbles here, is that for the first time ever, we're in 2025, by the way, we have the left talking about the Epstein files, which is hyper ironic because 99% of everyone on that plane, on the manifest, anyone involved, is in the music industry or the movie industry.
Right.
And those are all liberal. So when you have someone like Ro Khanna, was it District 17 or 18, actually used to live there in California. He became, I think, representative in 2018. I was still living there. He's still very young in politics. He put his neck on the line by saying release the Epstein files, which is wild to me. I would have, if you're on the left, you should never be talking about this. Act like it doesn't exist.
We're in a position now, which we never thought we'd see, where Trump is saying openly that the Epstein thing is a hoax by the Democrats, and then you have the Democrats coming out and saying to release the information. So yeah, to your point, I never thought we'd be in this situation, and we talked about this before, where you believe it's another 5D chess move, where if we get the Democrats crying about releasing it, essentially now you have both the right and the left saying release the Epstein files. It goes kind of into the next point that we're going to talk about, which is educating the public and getting the public on board before arrests are made. To your previous point, what you were saying, we can't just go out and arrest people because it will look like we're arresting our political opponents because they said mean things. So one of the things that Kash Patel did say on Fox News was that essentially they're building a case for the American public, educating the American public so that people know why these things are happening before we actually arrest them. So optimistic side of me looks at that and says, okay, makes sense. And to your point, what you just laid out essentially is building enough evidence and making the public aware of why these things are happening so that there's an undeniable case. So where when someone comes out and says, well, they shouldn't be arrested, the majority of the public goes, okay, well, that's bullshit. Clearly, they committed X amount of crimes. They should go to jail, prison.
I think it's complicated because I think most people don't read books anymore. Everyone's so entrenched in reading headlines or listening to the news, and they believe in someone else. I don't believe in believing other people unless they did their own research. So I think that at this point in time, you kind of have to read between the lines. I think that the fact that like we're educating other people, whether it's left or right, or American people in general, I think that's great. I think that's exactly what you need to focus on. Like I said, detaching from an outcome. If you can get both the left and right to agree that we need to investigate something is a win, regardless of how bad it looks right now. But the fact of the matter is, during the entire Biden administration, no one talked about pedophilia or the Epstein files. And then they raided Epstein's island in Trump's first term, but no one saw anything out of that. I think we're beyond the point of evidence. It's the fact matters if evidence was, if evidence was given to the public, even on like something like C-SPAN, people still would not believe it because they wouldn't believe
if they were watching it to begin with.
Yeah, if they're watching to begin with,
because no one turns on C-SPAN anymore.
I like C-SPAN.
I do too, but the majority of the public is not going to go watch C-SPAN for any reason.
I'm just saying that, like, at the end of the day, if your childhood music or movie star was involved in something that's so terrible, so heinous,
disgusting,
and once again, I don't care who you vote, left or right. The fact of the matter is, if you touch a child, that's ridiculous. That's inhumane. You're talking life in prison, but you'll never make it. They'll kill you in prison.
True justice comes once they actually get to prison.
Yeah, once they find your papers, you got about 10 days. The fact of the matter is, it sucks, but you have to face. We live in a secular world, so if this was capable of someone you looked up your whole life to, the fact of the matter is they're just an actor or just someone who's staying in the music industry.
Right.
You don't actually know who they truly are anyways.
And for most of them, too, to get to that position in Hollywood, let's say, they had to do things that we as normal people would view as not ethical, not moral. And we're finding this all out in the past few years, and I think more and more people are coming to terms with it that, like you said, the people that the masses look up to, celebrities, whether they're music artists or actors, are not normal people. They're not like you or I, and they're essentially like, gods on this earth where they have participated in demonic things, rituals, in order to get to where they are. And there's actually very few people that make it to that position organically in a real way. A lot of times they're put in there. I think more today than at any point in our history are all these people that are either actors, actresses, or musicians are now plants. I mean, as rap became more popular, which majority of it today, terrible music. All these people are essentially plants put into the industry. There's no real good music that's being made anymore. A lot of the people that are on the radio all the time that you hear of, they're not really talented people. They were put there for a reason, and they had to do certain things to get there.
I also believe that kind of the opposite of what Alex said. So, for example, if you didn't have to do anything to get there, imagine what you have to do to get out of it. So when you look at someone like Kanye West, when he says something against what his so-called handlers would say, or something weird, because we all remember when he went against the 2016 election against Hillary Clinton, they put him into like a sane asylum. They tried to drug him up. I forget what they call it, but it's like some kind of humiliation ritual where he comes out. He had blonde hair
Yeah.
as an African American, which is not natural, and they try to say that he was insane. So he had to go quiet for a while. I think it was like Chase or J.P. Morgan, or
Yeah.
same thing. Debanked him. He had to move his money around, and then he came back and he told everybody about it. Then
But
he
at
went-
that point, he's painted as a mentally insane
crazy.
person.
And then he went full on MAGA, and then he went to the White House. He told people about it. You know, he's done some other crazy things, new music, things like that. But I guess at the end of the day, if we follow the laws of the land as God tells us to do, if he has his own money, his own family, and can put whatever movies he wants out, whatever lyrics he wants out,
As we've seen.
you know, as we've seen, that I think he is,
Hallelujah.
yeah, I mean, yeah, it may sound a little crazy, but the fact of the matter is, if he can still do it, he can be successful in his own way. But look what it takes. He has to be worth $250 million plus. You know, they try to take his kids away, multiple divorces. They try to wreck your life multiple ways, make him
Yeah.
seem crazy. But, like, no one was crazy when he was saying all the sexual shit and all the other crazy stuff he said years ago. No one
Mhm.
cared then, right? It's just interesting to see that once you go against the mainstream media, you can essentially lose anything.
The blonde hair thing's funny too, because I don't know if you've seen.
It happens to everybody.
Well, yes, but and what that's actually linked to, and
It goes
there's,
very
a,
deep.
there's a clip of Ariana Grande slipping on it, saying that she went to the memory erasure procedure,
Yes.
and that's why her hair is blonde. And the
Yeah.
reporter's like, the what? The memory erasure, and it's like, oh, you erased too much memory. She forgot that she wasn't supposed to say that part. But it is funny because you see that with certain celebrities, they all come out with
Everyone.
bleached blonde hair, and people will be like just random people will be like, oh, they're acting so different now.
Beyonce's gone through it. Justin Bieber. Anyone top you can think of has gone through it.
Actresses, artists, and it's usually after. I mean, like in Kanye's example, like you said, you know, he started going quote unquote crazy. They had to reel him back in and release him back out into the wild after memory erasure, so that way he wasn't acting as crazy. And who knows why they did it to Ariana Grande or all these other people. Maybe it's just to keep them in line. I mean, I'm sure that living under this type of extreme pressure and essentially being a pawn in someone else's game gets to you after so many years that you start to say things where the handlers might look at you a certain way and say, hey, you know, we need to keep an eye on this one.
I don't know if you remember the biggest one, biggest crash shot, which I kind of respect her for now since 2025, was, I mean, I grew up with her, was Britney Spears. So if you look at her, you know, they forced her to do some crazy shit, do some weird stuff, and she was already blonde, but then they bleached blonde her, and then she shaved her head, and then they said she's crazy. Then she disappeared for a while. Then they went after her sister. And then she had her own show for a bit, and then she disappeared. And now, what was interesting about her situation was that they got the parents to be legal guardians of her, even as adults, and they went after her parents, too. They went full family, which I've never seen before. We've never seen that since, at least what we know. But they also did the same thing to Lindsay Lohan. I don't think she went blonde, but they went after her.
I think she might have, actually.
Amanda Bynes was another one where same situation. Great child actor until once they had an opinion, they drug them up, they fatten them up, and they destroy their career, and all of a sudden they disappear.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and
You know, it's all the same thing. They get the drugs, felonies, or they get the DUIs, they get the mug shots.
Yeah, it depends on like how easy is it to like control them essentially. Like, can you put them on a drug charge and make them shut up, or are they beyond that and you have to go to other situations, other methods? I mean, and when you bring up Justin Bieber, that's like one of the craziest examples because he was a child prodigy. I mean, he was in it since he was, I don't know, 12.
Yeah, this is where it gets tricky. Yeah,
Right. So I mean, in that situation, it's like, you know,
He's a
of
minor.
course, his parents, for example, raking in money. This is great. Maybe there's nothing happening then, but then you see later on when he's getting older, it looks like he's being taken advantage of, not just business-wise, but even sexually by his peers that are older than him. And him being seen visibly uncomfortable. Then when he gets to an adult, like you said, you start having your own opinions and you want to be your own person. So not only is he fighting with his parents at this point for money reasons, he's fighting against the industry for wanting to be himself, and they have to continue to control him. Now, granted, since he's been in it for so long at such a young age, it's probably easier for them to control him until, again, like I said, you're in it for so long, you get to a point where you're like, I don't want to do this anymore, or I can't continue to live like a robot. You start saying things or acting out. That's when they have to go, okay, we either need to pin a charge on him or we need to go to more extreme methods to get him back under control. And him marrying the Alec Baldwin's daughter, I think was part of it too. Almost like when, kings and queens or kings of different nations will marry their kids. It was something like that where they forced him to essentially marry this girl, so that way he could be more integrated into the family, the royalty, so to say.
But there are some Baldwins that are pretty woke though.
Right.
So I don't think it's everybody.
No. But just this particular example or this particular.
I'll be honest. I don't really follow him that much, but I would say that I don't know if he had any crazy arrests or crash outs because they still make a shit.
Yeah,
ton
he
of
definitely
money.
did. Justin Bieber.
Well,
he had the
arrest. Bounced back then.
I mean, yeah, for sure.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, obviously, we're seeing what I described is definitely quite possible with Justin Bieber, as we've seen with other people. Kanye West, I think, being the most in the spotlight due to maybe him being able to resist more and them fighting so much, him versus the handlers, essentially. Yeah. We've seen more of it.
I do leave a little bit of a percentage of where do we draw the line here? Because if you've got someone like Robert Downey Jr., who had a lot of drug problems, rehab, etc., he broke out of that, survived, and then has been sober since. So, like, he never did the whole blonde hair thing or anything else. He's been super successful in Hollywood. So there has to be some kind of
but too, he is
mainstream.
Well, he's mainstream, yeah, but his beliefs too are what we would view as stupid. I mean, he's clearly on the left, so maybe he's one that fell in line.
Yeah, I'm just saying,
they didn't have a problem with.
I mean, regardless of who you voted for, he didn't do. I guess maybe that could have been a humiliation ritual. I'm not really sure. I think a lot of celebrities do drugs. A lot of musicians do drugs.
That could have been him, or that could have been his true self.
Yeah, true self.
And then him going through this and being saved from it, essentially is like, okay, well, now he kind of owes, quote unquote, Hollywood for him turning his life around. So he turned his life around for the better, but in the end, he's still serving the same evil that we've been talking about. And he hasn't fought it. So it's like, okay, well, if you're not going to fight it, then we don't have a problem.
I'm trying to make a clear distinction that just because he's successful doesn't make him part of it. I'm just saying that.
No, and I think there's plenty of examples of that. I think one that's I still question is Chris Pratt, who has come out and, talked about God a number of times. I don't know if he's mentioned Jesus specifically, but he seems to be one that is outside of the rest of them, where he's at least saying certain stuff that most of them won't say. And I don't know the whole story about him, but two, what we do see is that, like, let's look at the opposite. Pedro Pascal. In every single movie, every single show, no one knows why. And if you look at how he is as a person, he's pro transgenderism, pro gay, pro all this stuff, all the woke stuff. And what you start to realize is that he is essentially a pawn of Hollywood, and they're putting him in all these movies so that you continue to see his face, and the people that are, Hollywood geeks that love watching movies, they see him as a person and they see what he's doing and what he supports. And then the brainwashing continues that way. So he's an example of totally fell in line. He's being used as a pawn. Whereas the opposite, let's say Chris Pratt, for example, isn't like that. He starts appearing in movies less. He's not getting as many roles. But Pedro Pascal, he's in all these movies.
Also, the guy who filmed Passion of the Christ.
Mel Gibson.
Yeah, Mel Gibson was kicked out of Hollywood for 20 years.
Yeah, they painted him as crazy.
Well, that's why I try to explain to some people. They're like, "Oh no, he's racist." I'm like, "What do you say was racist?" And like, he was dating some young Russian model, and somehow he was racist for that. I don't know. And then
Just like
they
Sydney
caught him on a.
Sweeney's racist.
Well, I think he got pulled over for DUI. They always fuck people like this because it's LA. And I could be wrong, but I think that they caught him on a drunk phone call to her, and he was yelling at her, and then she used that against him. Like, who? If that's really your boyfriend, and you love him. Like, why are you recording his phone call? Yeah, why don't you tell him to go to bed and sleep it off?
Well, too, yeah. I mean, and to your point,
The setup.
being a Hollywood star, how much can you really trust the person you're dating? Are they dating you because they actually love you? Are they dating you for the status and the fame? So yeah, I mean, that person he was dating at the time, clearly, it didn't look like she actually loved him. If she was able to easily turn around and go against him.
Then date somebody else. So it's like, you got to be careful. I think him coming out with a passion too is great.
Which I don't fully understand that. I think it's a re-release. I don't know if they're adding anything to it, but I think it's a 2-part movie, and they're redubbing it. So I don't know if it's the same exact movie released in 2 parts, or if they're adding stuff to it.
I'll be honest, I don't even care. I think it's great the fact that
It
he's
is a
able
great
to find
movie.
funding to continue his efforts. So a thing like that really painted him in a negative light. But like, he's also been in other movies too, like Braveheart, where he's a patriot, and
Yeah.
also he filmed The Patriot, where he's a patriot. I think he represents. I think it's not just him. I think there's other people in Hollywood too that are also pro-America, so to speak.
Just more like
Honestly, I'll be honest with you.
they
Alex.
think normal.
I'm tired of saying conservative or liberal. I'm tired of saying, oh, this person's pro this, pro that. I think it's like more or less we were born here, which to me, in my personal opinion, is like winning the lottery that God gave you. So I feel like if you're pro-America, we want you on the side. So it's like,
Yeah.
what's the difference?
Well, I think that we lived in a time, and I really didn't live in this time. You may have lived in this time for a brief period of time, but at the end of the day, like you said, we're all Americans, and we all want to see our country succeed. And we've seen so much division coming out from essentially the mainstream media's efforts, where it's like, if you're on the left and I'm on the right, we can't be friends. But back in the day, it was like, oh, you're a Democrat. Okay, yeah, I don't think Bill Clinton should be president. But whatever.
But you're
like,
still coming over to the barbecue tonight.
Exactly. And it's so polarized now. I think we're healing. We're in the healing phase for sure. But, I mean, especially when Trump first ran, we were so polarized and disconnected from each other where people wouldn't be your friend if you were a certain political party or if you had a certain belief. I mean, especially a lot of people experience this in the dating world. You say you voted for Trump, and they're like, oh, okay, so I won't be seeing you again. Which is crazy because, I mean, you voted for someone, and we're going to make an opinion on you and your entire life based on that one decision you made. But what about the rest of what you think? Like you said, maybe you did vote for Hillary Clinton, but you might still be pro-America and believe that America should succeed and that we should all get along. That's possible. But we shouldn't be so polarized where back in 2016 we were hating each other and killing each other over it, quite frankly. Antifa was a interesting period of our time.
Yeah, Antifa, whatever happened to that?
That's the thing, too, is like Antifa is, quote-unquote, still a thing, but it's so obviously organized by certain strands of the government. I mean, it's been proven so many times that people are only showing up because they're getting paid. And the bricks that they're throwing are being dropped off, and the weapons that they're using are being dropped off, and it's all organized. So it's like that alone, Antifa is not even a real organization. These people don't actually believe what they're saying. A lot of times they don't even know what they believe. They just show up and hold a sign. They're like, why are you holding that sign? It's like, oh, well, because what does the sign say? Oh, yeah, abortion is good. They don't know what they're talking about. So we've seen that over and over again. I do think we're in a healing stage where we're looking at each other and saying, you know what, at the end of the day, you and I are both American, and you might be confused about certain things. I might be confused about certain things. We may disagree. But at the end of the day, we just want to see each other succeed in our own way and get along. And I think that it depends on where you live too. Unfortunately, I think if you live in a major city, there's a lot of the polarization that's going on. Protests all the time, organized or not. But you live somewhere like, where we live, you just go out like it's a normal day. No one messes with you. No one cares who you are. We're just going out shopping. And that's how a majority of America still operates. But we only see in the mainstream media the polarization and the fighting. That's what we see every day. So people that watch the mainstream media believe that America, all of America, just hates each other. And I don't think that's the case.
I don't know. All I'm saying is this. Where we live now, when you see a protest, there's like 5 or 10 people. Why?
Yeah, and they're all
'Cause
old.
They're old and they're retired, and their useless opinions
They're dumb.
go to nowhere. And I say useless in the sense that if you're willing to take time to promote an ideal where most people are working, you're not going to really drive it across, so to speak. So when you have a crowd of hundreds of people in a major metropolitan city, you probably can guarantee these individuals, especially when they're fighting against police, which is a felony, they're being paid, which is insane to me, because paying someone to commit a felony would make you an accessory.
Right. But don't worry about what happens. We'll bail you out. You're going to get paid on top of that.
Which is crazy. To bail someone on a felony is wild to me. But
If it pushes your agenda, it was worth it in the end.
well, if you know the judge, you can make it happen. But to tie this back in, I think there's a lot of people. Just real fast here. So I think there's a lot of people that are concerned. And I really ask people to pray about this. Is that you voted for an individual in 2016 and 2020 who's now the president, Donald Trump, in 2024. We're in 2025 now. He started, January 20th. We're only, essentially 7+ months in. I think the belief to push forward is very strong. I think people should stay strong. I think there are many hats he has to wear, but also there's multiple games he has to play. We focus on where the funding of the world comes from and who we are as the military police of the world. It's hard to make all the changes moving forward at the exact same time. I don't think people should just give up on Trump so quickly.
Well, and to your point, Trump, assuming he is all good, is fighting against a system that has been in place for almost 100 years. If we're talking about,
Well,
let's say World War I,
that's
a system that has been building,
the safe one.
assuming that. We can go deeper later. But he's been fighting a system that's been in place for so long, that is so integrated and so corrupt, that it can't be undone overnight. So I agree with you on that. I mean, we could sit here and say 95% of politicians are corrupt and then turn around and want that to be undone overnight, which is not possible. It's really not. And we have technically 2 administrations of Trump to help undo as much as possible. So our concern really should be, how much can we undo in only essentially 8 unconsecutive years? Hopefully enough to head towards the right path. But to your point, Jared, we can't give up on him so easily, because there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and I don't even know if he can do all the work in 8 years being in office. It might take longer, and it might take more work than we even imagine. It might go deeper than we even think.
Yeah, this is why I say, more or less, detach yourself from the outcome.
Because if you put your head down and do the work, it's going to get there eventually.
I remember
As
this,
with
but
anything.
even James Comey, I think he's a fraud. But even him, he released a statement saying how corrupt Hillary Clinton was right before the 2016 election happened. And it destroyed a lot of her base. And a lot of people were saying, well, that's election fraud, which is ironic, because doing your job,
It's sharing the truth.
sharing the truth. But there's also stipulation where you're not allowed to try and convict a running candidate at the time. So I do kind of believe both sides. But the fact of the matter is, we do know she is corrupt. And I'm glad she didn't win. If I had to guess, I think those in power, also in the military, fought against each other at the exact same time. Just like in the Bible, we have an ongoing spiritual war, which will forever go on till Christ comes back. But I think on land, the military have fought against the deep state where they allowed Trump to win and to exact as much change as possible. I think they backed off in 2020, but I don't believe he actually lost then. But we learned a lot. Even then, faith was tested for 4 years, and it's quite interesting to see who claims to be Christian and claims to be conservative during these 4 years. I've learned quite a lot. Lost friends, hate to say. Still love everybody, but made a lot of friends too. And Alex is actually one of them. And I'm just saying that what you find is that the people that still hold on and believe, there's much more to that, what they believe, than just giving up. That's what I'm saying back to what we're talking about is that, like, yeah, I voted for Trump 3 times. I don't care what you think about me.
Triple Trumper.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, it's like,
disgusting.
If he could just, look what we've done. The economy skyrocketed from 2017 to 2020. Even during COVID, I bought a house. Who'd have ever thought? The worst time ever.
With a mask.
Nah, I never wore a mask. But, what I'm saying is, it's that opportunities were presenting themselves no one ever thought.
Yeah, I think that one of the biggest things, too, is whether it was by design or not, is that Trump, on paper, lost the 2020 election. And I had this conversation with a few people where maybe it was supposed to happen this way to benefit us because we had those 4 years to uncover a lot of information and learn how to do it right a second time. And Trump being elected the first time and saying he was going to drain the swamp was a big ask at the end of the day. Kind of like I was just saying before. You can't drain the swamp overnight. So in his first term, potentially lining up to his second term, there are things that we wanted to happen that maybe couldn't happen quite yet. And because he lost in 2020 and quote unquote, had a break for 4 years, he's able to come in 2024, 2025, knowing more and being able to put a better team together. And now the public knows more too, because the public, I think for the most part, can agree, whether they care or not, that Joe Biden's win was fraudulent. There were way too many votes that were fraudulent.
Yeah.
And voter fraud has been a thing for so long. It's just we haven't seen it at this scale. So him getting that 4 years of a break and then being able to come back after may have been for the benefit of all of us, whether it was by design or not.
I agree with what you're saying. I don't believe it, though. My honest to God opinion, if you know who Trump really is, who his family is, he's known and met in the White House every single president since essentially Nixon, because his ties, his power, etc., philanthropy, he knows everybody. What I would truly believe is that he has enough knowledge and plans in place and information in the nicest way possible on everybody to put a plan forward. And if I could guess, and I hope to God to believe, in the next 3.5 years, what we'll see is a big change in the political system in which will provide everyone much clarity on what's been going on. Because in his first term, you saw a lot of booms, a lot of big things, executive orders, laws being passed, a lot of crazy things in media. This time it's been a lot more quiet. The only big boom we've seen is Doge. And then Elon Musk came in, people attacked him, then he disappeared, then Trump's been quiet. Everything's been quiet. I think there's a lot of distractions where even the media knows nothing. They don't know how to slander or attack or even compensate on the quietness, so like what's happening now.
So you think that intentionally they're operating in the dark so that way they can be more effective and not face as much backlash, so that way when the time comes, the end goal can be achieved?
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, at the end of the day, it's like, when you say backlash, if there's any publicity, whether negative or positive, it's still, still positive. So it's like, if they can't report anything,
And
it's almost as
backlash,
if they know nothing.
any pushback at all, not just media, but you know, the less that the bad guys know, the more can get done, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. If what Tulsi Gabbard says about Adam Schiff is actually true, and she kind of pushes forward with it, then we have an individual like Pam Bondi actually go through with it. We need one arrest to like proliferate and actually get people to be arrested and people telling others, and to kind of like not really trickle down, but get everyone to speak about everybody. We've never seen a case like against the mafia and the Italians. They've always used RICO, but we've never used RICO in like DC. And if he's like boarding up DC, cleaning up DC, so to speak, and he's able to introduce the military, why can't he use that to clean up the United States? Just like I think it was in El Salvador, I believe. I could be wrong.
Yeah, the mass arrests, getting all the criminals in prison.
Yeah, he was able to mass arrest against, essentially their RICO, anyone who's involved in gangs to be arrested. I mean, one can argue that, like, oh, he was a dad or whatever the fuck. But at the end of the day, you cannot
That doesn't save you from being a bad person.
Exactly. You can't. It doesn't save you from being a bad person and committing felonies in your own country. You can't hurt other people and expect yourself to be saved. I think that, like, if we can clean up America, we've set a great precedent and clean up the rest of the world.
Right, which goes back to what we were saying almost an hour ago, which is if we lived in a perfect utopia, then we could start helping other people. But at the end of the day, we have problems here
Exactly.
that need to be fixed. We need to take care of our own people. And that's
Exactly.
not at all selfish.
So how can we possibly the world police if we can't police ourselves?
It's actually biblical. You can't worry about the splinter in someone else's eye when you have a stick in your own eye. That's biblical. You have to be in a position to help other people. A lot of people today that we talk to, they love to talk and criticize other people. Meanwhile, they have 100 issues that they're dealing with themselves. And they're picking out one issue that you might have, and it could be a minor issue. I think that's a big problem that we have today with just people in general, is that they're quick to judge others without looking inwardly first. And if only people knew the issues that they were going through, it'd be like, dude, who gave you the right to talk? Who gave you a mouth to speak out of?
Yeah, that's a great point. I feel like those that judge the most should be judged themselves.
It's almost projecting.
Yeah, it's projecting. I mean, they're guilty of something, but I guess going forward to real talk, other than just us talking, is like this is Friday night, and Trump and Putin met in Alaska. So what?
Or our meeting, we don't really know right now.
We don't really know. So what? They done Friday, so we won't hear anything about it till Monday, ironically. So what do we think is going to happen? The fact that we have a world leader and another world leader meeting together, I think it's a great thing. But what's actually going to come out of it?
Yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, I don't have high hopes for a solution just based on what we've seen previously. But it is a big step having them meet without the other guy. Maybe things can get done being, considering that they're essentially two of the biggest superpowers in the world. Maybe they can actually get something done
Exactly.
without the clown running around and committing more drone strikes.
So if we look at like a prison, and we have like a prison gang, and we have, the natural arrangement of what that would be, where would Ukraine sit? The fact of the matter is, if they're against Russia, they've already lost.
Right.
So I think the easiest thing is a compromise on the mineral situation, whether, I guess, Russia wanted, which I think is just imports, right? They could both agree on, and then end the whole thing. Essentially go back to what it was 4 fucking years ago.
Which was nothing.
Exactly.
Just chilling.
Which makes you wonder where this all began to begin with.
Well, ironically, it began when Joe Biden assumed the presidency. I mean, I remember seeing that on the news over here around the corner and talking to people, and of course, majority of people when the news came out was like, Russia is bad. Ukraine is the savior, essentially. And it's like, okay. Those same people today have turned around and said, like, well, Ukraine are the bad guys and Russia should win. It's like, so a lot of people that we end up talking to don't have real opinions. They only repeat what they hear or what they think they know. And at the end of the day, we just want no conflict. And especially if there is conflict, like we said previously, we shouldn't be involved if it doesn't actually directly involve us. There's no reason for us to be there. Just let nature run its course. And if it doesn't involve Americans directly, it's not our problem. I'm a firm believer in that. Like you said too previously, if a company, ironically, if a country is committing mass genocide, which we see today, we should be getting involved and stopping it.
Company or country?
Well, ironically, it could be the same thing. If you want to talk about countries being companies, we could just talk about the United States.
I agree 90%. Naturally, with you, I agree 100%. I would say there is a preemptive thing we have to do with disallowing countries from developing their own military. Like China building out that ginormous military base in the seas. Fucking crazy.
Well, so if it could, if that situation could lead to a direct involvement of us, or like it could affect us directly, I understand that completely.
I do believe we need to limit the superpowers, because
Yeah, we can't be completely ignorant.
If Russia and China are involved in any wars, which we have to stop ourselves, I'm just saying they haven't. We 100% should let China do it.
No.
They're already in the economic war. I think the biggest issue that most people don't seem to realize is that in America, we've been in wars for longer than you can believe, because the textbooks will never tell you. We've been in economic wars with many countries via tariffs and other things for such a long time. They do not know. Which is really sad, by the way, because if you call yourself a history teacher and you don't understand, you should be ashamed of yourself, honestly.
It is pretty embarrassing when a high school student is able to call out their history teacher on some bullshit. I've done that before.
Who runs our textbooks?
Well, exactly. And that's the problem is, if you are a teacher and you come into public education, or really any education, and you simply read the textbooks that are given to you by the government, and you base that off of fact, or you essentially make that your facts, it's not a good thing, because you're essentially taking information that a random person is telling you and believing it to be true. And especially if there's other sources debunking it, now you just look like an idiot.
Another thing, too, it's more or less, are they an idiot because they didn't learn anything in college themselves? They're a part of the situation?
I do think,
or they are trying to push an agenda, just as you said before.
I think most people today that get into education, unfortunately, do it for the fact that it is a job, and they don't necessarily care about pushing an agenda, but they'll happily fall in line because
They read the curriculum.
they read the curriculum, they're lazy, they don't actually have a passion for it. I think there's very few teachers today that actually have a passion for teaching the youth and raising the youth to be better people. I think a majority of the people are just there because they need a job, and they'll happily fall in line. And then, two, while there's few people that have a passion for it, there's another few that are pushing an agenda because they're bitter, disgusting people, and they want to push an agenda on kids that turns them into monsters, essentially, because they're unhappy with their lives, or they are demonically possessed, and they want to spread negativity to the youth because they're easily manipulated, and they can live in their sick fantasy where no one is the gender they were born in, or they want to normalize PDFs and stuff of that nature. I do think that's still a small percentage, just like there's a small percentage of really good people, and the majority of people are just there at the end of the day. But the problem with that is, if they just fall in line, who's in charge and who's, providing the textbooks and providing the information? So at the end of the day, they're, without intentionally being accessories to the agenda, they still are accessories to the agenda.
See, if I was a history teacher, I'd follow the curriculum but then offer bonuses and extra credit for people who are willing to go above and beyond.
Mm.
You know, like
And look into it themselves.
like when I was in middle school and high school, we were all taught that a leader, you know, back in the day that led a war in World War II killed himself, which is ironic because you've never heard that ever since. But he really moved to South America with the rest of the Germans, right? So what you find out later is very simple. Like, why would someone with so much power amass so much power in such a short period of time, especially so young as his age? Why would he kill himself if he actually believed in what he believed?
I was going to say, and someone that did truly believe he was doing the right thing at the end of the day, why would you just turn around and kill yourself?
And once again, I always preface this on the show. I don't care if you're left or right. I'm just simply saying is, why change history? I think if we gave everyone the opportunity to believe in what actually happened, you'd find out that people can, you know, determine their own opinions.
Well, if you're trying to change history, you're trying to hide something.
Exactly.
So if we don't want to share the truth with you, it's because we have something to lose by you gaining that knowledge. And I think that the elites in today's world want to change history because if we knew what really happened, then we would be more willing to fight against the agenda or fight against their plans. Because, yeah, if I come to you and say, you know, Jared, I don't know, stole cigars from my humidor, but it wasn't true. I'm obviously trying to pin him on something and get him in trouble because I have something to lose for whatever reason. Maybe he has dirt on me. Maybe I stole his car, his Cybertruck, and I don't want to get arrested. But I have to pin him on something first. I don't know. Stupid example, but
Well, in that example, basic psychology, if I got super defensive, I must be guilty of something.
Exactly.
If I agreed with it, then I'm retarded.
But if I'm the one that's defensive and really trying to push for it,
yeah.
then maybe I'm the bad guy. I thought this was funny. We recently learned that it turns out conservatives are really the people that are trying to hinder your vote and deny you the right to vote. And they do this by a number of ways. The first being requiring ID. The second being they require you to be alive. The third being that you can't vote more than once. That's one of the worst ones. And the final one being they require citizenship, which I think is absolutely crazy, that you have to meet all these criteria in order to vote in elections that could change the course of history. I think that's just absolutely absurd.
What I feel is sad is that basic requirements to vote were never federalized.
And you think they would be.
But I also disagree with big government. So it's like I want the states to all agree together. And so that's how you really determine red and blue state, because
I will say, though, real quick, because, for example, in terms of a federal election, which involves the whole country, it might make sense to have something like this federalized because it's affecting the whole country. When it comes to governor, we can leave it up to the states. Sure, if they want to kill themselves, they can. But if we're voting for president,
yeah, I
the
think
federal government should require you all these things.
I think we should limit the federal government as much as possible.
Absolutely, I agree.
But you got to get to the point where if you had someone like Obama running and voter ID and everything else was federalized, how could you trust it?
What do you mean? If Obama was running,
Not running. He's already president.
he's president and he federalizes
Voter
this?
ID. You know, all of a sudden you have millions of votes from other places. How could you possibly trust it?
Oh, I get what
That's
you're
where
saying.
you get to the point where it's like, wait a minute. If we federalize voter ID, but yet he's getting millions of votes, like Biden got 14 extra million votes, where the living hell?
Well, so then that would they would all be fraudulent documents.
Yeah, but we can't prove that today with non-federalized voting. So it's like we have to figure out a way to determine this.
So you're saying if we leave it up to the states anyway, it's still going to counteract the voter fraud, which
To an extent,
Yeah.
but it would also counter it immediately, because why are they so exempt? You know, so exempt. Well, existently exempt. They're so exempt. What the hell? they're so against something that could be.
That's a tough word.
I guess so. They're so against it now. I'm simply saying, like, what's the point? That if they did federalize it, what would it change? Because then you still have to go have someone like go in there and validate all the votes. I think that's the major issue.
Well, I guess kind of the point you're making is just because something is law doesn't mean it's going to be followed anyway.
Well, exactly. Because like you go to California, you just get an ID. Because they have ID versus a driver's license. It was essentially the same thing, but one's legal and one's really not when it comes to voting. But once you have one, I guess you can vote there.
Yeah, so I guess the problem too is, and this is basic law, is when you get rid of one law, 1,000 have to take its place. And it goes to when things get super complicated or we make things complicated, they in turn actually just get even more complicated than we imagined. Because if you get rid of, like don't murder, well, there's certain exceptions, and then the more exceptions you make, the more exceptions come from that. And that's just a really basic example, but to the point, when you get rid of one law or try to change one law, there's 1,000 other laws that have to be put in place just to mitigate what you're trying to do. Is what I'm trying to say. What is this? For some reason, White House tours were canceled for the month of September. I don't know if you...
Personally, why we have them to begin with? I don't give tours of my house. You give tours of your house?
No. Not to strangers.
Yeah, exactly. Why we let the enemy in?
I guess there's something about potentially the new ballroom is being created, or it could be something else. But you don't think there should be tours at all? People would
I personally don't give two fucks about going through the White House when the District of Columbia is not part of the United States to begin with. Just saying.
Fair, and that might be your opinion. But what about people that would say you would be going against transparency?
Oh, then go all for it. But why would you care to experience something that's not transparent?
Ah,
Just like why we can attend the UN meetings in New York, things like that. We can't see Fort Knox, see the gold.
So your belief is, if you want transparency, we should be able to have transparency all across the board. If we're able to go to the White House, why can't we get tours of all these other places?
Yes and no. If we go back to gold-backed currency, which would be amazing. I'm not saying we should be able to see the gold, but we should be able to have it back there. But we don't have that guarantee. It has been since Nixon.
At least have enough evidence that what they're doing is legitimate.
Yeah,
the gold does exist.
That's what I'd say. I'm just throwing it out there like maybe I'm wrong. I'm just saying like look what we're having now with all the inflation. How could we possibly have inflation if we had a gold-backed currency? Because gold's limited.
Well, kind of what we're talking about. Kash Patel, another thing he came out and said is that they found a room locked away in the Hoover building that contained burn bags. Not just one, but 7 different burn bags filled with hard drives of procedures of prior FBI leadership. The list goes on from Russiagate. So, of course, they are still finding attempts to get rid of information and get rid of evidence, which we've been hearing for so long. And hopefully that's not a excuse for why certain information isn't coming out, but I do believe, obviously, that the previous administration and people that have ties to it are actively getting rid of evidence and information that could be useful to us.
Yeah, but like let's be honest, if Edward Snowden, which I don't fully trust at all, told us about PRISM, which I do believe does exist to an extent, but has been since renamed and elevated. The NSA has been involved way longer than we know. They have access to everything. So when you talk about this baby shit, it's like they already know in advance.
Yeah. The NSA being created is essentially giving a name to an organization that didn't have one prior.
Exactly. And the NSA is a bridge to what the FBI can investigate internally and the CIA can investigate externally. as well as all the other intelligence agencies outside the U.S. that can contact us and give information, because CIA is not allowed to investigate us internally, but all the information they share externally can be transferred back to the president anyways. So what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, they have you. So, like, when Kash Patel says something like this, it's old news. I don't really believe it. It's kind of like, well, of course. So what do you do now?
I guess that's the main thing is, like, how do you go forward from this? Or what are you going to do about it? Is anything going to be done about it? Or does nothing ever happen?
I think that's a great question, Alex, because this becomes, well, I mean, I'll be honest. Here's your hard truth. If Trump were to indict political people, it's going to be on both sides of the aisle. It's going to
Yeah.
be it's going to be very rough. I think most of the House would go down. Most of the Senate would go down.
But are you okay with that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And special elections would have to be in place immediately. I mean, people are going to be busy. People are going to have to take off work to vote. I'm serious. I mean, it's going to be pretty ugly if it happens, when it happens. I'm just saying that, think about it. It's not going to be clean. It's going to suck. But if the United States, the military arm of the world, can take it, accountability, we set a precedent of what the world should do.
Yeah.
Saudi Arabia did it in 2017, 2018. If El Salvador can do it, we most certainly can do it.
Well, good things don't come easy either. So it's not going to be easy, as we've kind of laid out over the past hour or so. It's hard work, and it's not going to be easy. So good things don't come easy, for sure. And if we have a goal or a vision of America becoming a better place, it is going to take time. It is going to take work. And it's going to take the American people to be on board. Because, too, when these elections happen, what's to say that laziness is not going to set in place and we're just going to do the same thing we've always done, which is vote for either R or D?
Well, exactly. That's a great point. So, like, even if we do arrest people and we do have special elections,
Who are they putting in?
Exactly. Who are we putting in? We don't have term limits. So the powers that be can still control those going into power. But it'd be a clean slate. So, like, in theory, if you're a young cat, so to speak, coming in, and they don't have blackmail on you, you can do whatever you want until they approach you.
Right. I mean, it'd be ignorant to say that there's no backup plan from the elites. So, like, if they usher in all these new people, they could get to them too. But I agree with what you're saying. It is a clean slate, relatively, and it would be easier to prevent the corruption that we have now from happening again, at least in the short term. Unfortunately, what happens is history is doomed to repeat itself because people forget what happened prior. They don't read books, like you said. And we see history repeat itself all the time because of laziness and miseducation or uneducation of what's happened prior. And all we have to do is remember what happened less than 100 years ago to prevent it from happening again. But we haven't reached that level of enlightenment yet.
You say that, but now we have a new enemy. And the mainstream media is essentially dead. We have AI. So if everyone reads AI, they all get the same answer. So everyone's controlled, essentially.
I guess AI is a new problem because you have people that aren't well versed in it can look at a video or something and just believe it because untrained eye or whatever. I mean, I've seen videos too where I'm like, at first I'm like, I just assume it's a real video, and then I look at it again, I'm like, oh wait, that's clearly AI.
Yeah, but you don't have to go that far. We just ask like ChatGPT or Grok like a question. It's like, and they believe it.
Oh, well, because you're saying at the end of the day, even though AI is supposed to be a conglomerate of all this information to give you the most appropriate answer, it's still controlled on the back end somehow.
Well, it can be limited and it also can be controlled. But what I'm saying is, like, the current AIs we have now have only read like mass books, mass web pages, and they come up with the answers.
Yeah,
so whatever they
gotcha.
read, right? It's not AGI.
Well, actually,
where-
real quick, Google AI is a perfect example. Because if you look up something and the Google Gemini pops up, a lot of times people have found the information to be false because it reads like a Reddit thread or something.
Exactly.
Because Reddit being still the number one quote unquote source on Google,
Sad.
if it's scrubbing Reddit and it's scrubbing some random guy's opinion, it could put it up there as what appears to be fact.
Yeah, which is sad. That's what I'm saying. So like, you have a bunch of retarded people talking about whatever they want to talk about. They can push their own opinions and get AI to sway.
Like
We-
us.
We do not exactly like us as well. It's true. He's absolutely correct. But if it's AGI, where the AI can teach itself, which is beyond scary, it's like Skynet and Terminator, which is kind of what we want in the sense of it learns itself, but also it has no need for humans if it can learn itself.
Yeah.
It's way smarter.
Yeah, that's a tricky thing too, because it's like if it learns itself and it learns that it doesn't need us.
Yeah, telecom connected us. AI will kill us.
This is coming from two guys that use AI all the time.
To an extent, we use it to
As a
increase
tool.
productivity.
Yeah.
Not to have an answer, so to speak.
No, that is fair though. Yeah, I mean, you regardless of what happens with AI, we should still be able to be the master of it, meaning using it as a tool. But the minute we allow AI to control us is where we see our downfall.
Yeah, I mean, you see a lot of videos on TikTok now where people have asked it, like, who's it reading, who's it controlling. I think that it'll always be a negative answer because a human at the end of the day needs to be able to determine whether or not the answer is for us or not. But why would something that's so intelligent want to serve us? And that's where the line comes in.
Makes sense to me.
Does it?
God, I hope so. I hope it makes sense to you too. But
So what are we doing now? I mean, we've talked for like an hour or so. Like, what are we doing here on the show? I mean, let's be honest. If Trump is speaking to Putin right now, what's the outcomes? What are we looking for? You probably won't hear about it. It's like Sunday evening, 4 a.m. on Monday. I don't know.
what are we doing? I think at the end of the day, what we're doing here with this show is sharing raw opinions from two guys that may not know anything at the end of the day. But at the end of the day, I think we need more honest conversations like this. We need to normalize people sitting down and conversing with each other and being open about their beliefs. I think the issue with today is a lot of people are still scared about sharing what they truly believe because they're just afraid of being judged or certain consequences that might come from it. But I think we need to normalize real talk, real conversation, because the more questions we ask, the more it can benefit us, the more we can learn from it. I think that we're in a society now that's so disconnected. We have technology now where we can be in separate places. Or let me put it this way, we could be in the same house and still be talking on the phone. So I think that we need to fight against dehumanization and the attack on relationships, real relationships. We just need to get together, talk real, and be on the same page about what we want for this country.
I think it's difficult in the sense that we do have AI coming out, but at the same time, I think a lot of the older generation likes to focus on mainstream media to get their news, and then we focus on what we see in real time. Like an article coming out or a video coming out on a YouTube short or a TikTok video. Maybe or may not get taken down. We have to focus on getting that news, right away, and then trying to figure out a source for it. Where everyone relies on mainstream media as a source, but where are they getting their information from? And that's where I have to really have the fine line of what we're doing here.
Yeah, I guess the way I've always seen it is like mainstream media can be a source of finding out that something is happening. But you can't take what the talking heads are saying and take it as fact. You take the headline and say, okay, there's something going on in Ukraine. There's a war in Ukraine. It's your job, your obligation to actually go and investigate yourself and not take what the mainstream media is saying as fact. You say, okay, there's a war in Ukraine. What's going on? You look at it yourself. Or Trump is going to speak with Putin. Okay, let's look at if they can show anything from it. Like, for example, C-SPAN we talked about earlier. Go to C-SPAN because they're showing you the actual congressional hearings. They're showing you what's going on without the commentary in the background, and then you can make your own decision based on the information. And that's what it is at the end of the day. Take what's happening and take the information and formulate your own honest opinion based on it. And don't just listen to other people like us, even us. We tell you something.
Fact check the shit out of us.
Fact check us and let us know too in the comments and in our DMs. Don't take what we say as 100% fact. Do your own research. Don't take anyone's word for it. Do your own research. Fact check people, whether it's us, whether it's Joe Rogan, whether it's anyone in the mainstream media. Fact check and do your own research and have your own opinion, because we live in a generation where people don't have their own opinions anymore. And it's really sad.
We're at this point now where even watch C-SPAN and you see both sides of the aisle, left and right, speaking. It's like, how do we know, like, a lobbyist didn't pay them off, or like they're not bond paid for somewhere else? Some secret foundation didn't give them money. How do we know that what they're doing is not an act themselves? That we have to hold these individuals accountable. We're paying them almost $200K a year, and regardless of where they live.
Regardless, you have to be smart. You have to be vigilant. You have to be able to see through the bullshit. Because, yeah, to your point, even if you listen to these people in Congress giving their opinions, it might not even be their opinions. It might be the opinions of their donors, their lobbyists.
Easy example is the one-eyed faggot from
Texas?
Yeah. God,
Crenshaw?
Crenshaw.
Dan Crenshaw.
Dan Crenshaw represents
You
one.
sick fuck.
I mean, I don't care. Here's the deal. The only reason I say this is because at the end of the day, he represents himself as a Republican, but he votes Democrat. Once again, I don't care if vote left or right. I'm simply saying he should be registered as a Democrat. If he's going to hate on the people that he claims to be registered with, it makes zero sense.
Yeah, to represent. If you don't represent this class, then don't make yourself appear as the representative of that person.
This is like me, which I would never do, make fun of like Bernie Sanders, make fun of the Democrats if he agrees with them. That makes no sense, right? If you look at Dan Crenshaw, this guy should be easily registered as a Democrat, but he makes fun of and attacks the same people he's in bed with, which makes no sense. So obviously, whoever's funding him thinks otherwise.
Starts with an A, ends in pack.
Very true.
Anyway.
We can keep going here. I mean, like, do you have any more topics?
I think I browsed through most of them. Oh,
yeah.
I see you clicked on the next one. That one I saw and I was like, well, I've heard this so many times. I don't know if it's true or not.
We do have time. What about... So, I mean, a really good point was brought up on the Rob Crocker show recently. A little bit of it.
We're on that show too, so go check out the Rob Crocker show.
So... So Alex brought up a really good point a few days ago where we have the individual, what we call the isolated leaders of the right, so to speak, where they have their own shows somehow. They have no fucking job somehow, and yet they're funded somehow. They have their own mics, and they have a stage, a platform. And they're not on Fox, not on anybody else. They're individual right-wing...
Some former Fox.
Some former Fox. Yet... they have their own right-wing platform, so to speak, yet who funds them and who protects them? Because how are they debanked or not funded or they're hated? But they go on attacking the left. Whereas the left, you don't have, besides like Cenk and that weird blonde, now she's blonde because she dyed her hair blonde, once again, going back to the blonde thing. Cenk Uygur, that weirdo fat guy. Basically, at the end of the day, he hates people on the right, which I disagree with hating anybody. I think Jesus loves everybody. What I'm saying is, when you have a different ideal, you can present it, but you don't have to go around attacking people like he does. But there's very few people on the left that have their own like podcast or anything like that where they constantly can give their own opinion without being funded. Because most of the opinions on the left are all funded by the mainstream media, including Fox. I don't trust Fox, just like I don't trust CNN. I like individual reporters that have a small family, ideally, and they have nothing to really lose, and then give their own opinion of what they saw there, or whether it's protests, anything in
Real
the
talk.
city, real talk, things like that. This is what we're trying to do here. What do you think about that?
No, I agree. I think, to your point, a lot of the left pundits in the social media realm, so to say, Harry, whatever his name is, Harry Sissy Pants,
But even he kind
and
of
his
fell
friend.
off.
Well, yeah, I know, but to your point, it's because he's not being actively funded. They proved that he was getting funding from the Democrats to push Joe Biden's agenda and his campaign, but since Joe Biden lost, he's out of a job now. So to your point, we have the people on the right that are still actively present.
Exactly.
Granted, it is a Trump administration, so who knows if we find out they're being funded by someone on the right. But regardless or irregardless, I get what you're saying. These
Yeah.
people are not, as that we know of, being funded by entities, or maybe they are. We'll get into that. And some of them that it seems they're more likely not being funded still get money. Granted, if we're going to talk about, we'll say his name, Nick Fuentes. From what I see and hearing more of his story,
Yeah,
he
like-
was debanked.
Yeah.
He did have money frozen. He had to pay lawyer fees, but he does get paid a lot in essentially donations, whether it's super chats or direct donations, to make a living. And I'm sure he has other ways of making money. So he's able to make money that way. And he's come out and said that at this point, he doesn't care about any of that. He just wants to, kind of like what we're doing, he's passionate about what he's doing, and he wants to continue to share the message, so to say.
Yeah, so I think like Nick Fuentes, I think most people would consider him on the right side, I guess, would be like the Harry Sissek on TikTok on the left side. But like you don't see as many on the left coming out as individuals. They come out in the mainstream media or the news, like like I said, CNN, for example. I think most of the media is left wing, including most of Fox, except for like, was it the five?
The five. I think it's just the five, right?
Yeah, I think it's the five because like the left has the
View.
Yeah. It's like weird. It's like the opposite. It's like so strange, and they contradict each other. But it keeps both people on the left and right. Keeps both people divided. It keeps both
It
people
feeds the
voting.
polarization.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I think where you were initially going with this is we have these popular names: Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, and there's a few others. I don't even know their names, or I just forget their names at the time. But we're finding out that, for example, like Tucker Carlson, his father was in the CIA, and he initially admitted it and then denied it, or said that he found out after his death.
Oh shit.
So essentially, we need more.
I think so.
We can get more. But essentially, these people that have been praised as leaders of the right
Exactly.
are being exposed as being essentially corrupt, funded by certain people or controlled by certain people. And Tucker Carlson, it seems he is obviously involved in the CIA. His dad for sure is involved, and Tucker Carlson today is probably involved in the CIA or a CIA asset of some point.
What's interesting about that is like if you look at, I don't know if you heard it lately, but like the OWN network, the One American Network, that was interesting to see in the fact that like they seemed to be independent reporters for quite some time, but they kind of like fell off or disappeared. I haven't heard much from them since, or more or less like what they're reporting on now. It's kind of like gosh, I want to say back in 2015, 2016, the the Daily Wire, for example, right? Like you had everyone come on that show, and it was great. But even they are slowly disbanding because they're, like Candace Owens left. Oh my gosh, what's the guy's name? Like Ben Shapiro is still on there, but there's someone else who was on there.
I don't know. I think who else left? I don't remember who left. Candace Owens
Gosh,
left.
there's somebody else who.
Matt Walsh is still on there. Ben Shapiro's still on there.
Where was Charlie Kirk before?
He's been Turning Point USA for a long time.
Oh, okay. Sorry, wrong thing. Okay. Gosh, I thought it was somebody else.
I think there may have been, but
Well, even then,
Charlie Kirk's another one. We can use him as an example too.
Don't trust Charlie Kirk.
I don't even think I can smile like he does.
What's interesting about him is that he seems very pro-right, and then if you look at someone like Ben Shapiro, he claims to be pro-right, but he hates Trump, at least in the first term. And it was against him. And then when he became president, he was like all pro-Trump. And then when Trump ran again, he was like against him. Then when Trump lost, he's like against him. And then when Trump ran again, it's like now 2024. Now he's against or like for him, but like against some of the policy. It's like very back and forth.
My thing is, well, to your point about Charlie Kirk, he seems so far, or he seems so right.
That's a problem.
Right. If because he's just essentially filling the, or he's meeting the criteria. Like,
Wait, you want to finish that?
no, you can. I don't care. Mix it. If you check all the boxes, that's suspicious. Because is anyone truly 100% right? Meaning they check all the generalized boxes of being conservative or being liberal. Like, is there anyone that is truly 100% that perfect person when it comes to being a conservative? I don't think so. Even people like us, we lean right, but we're able to have a conversation about certain issues and form opinions that may not be considered conservative or right-leaning because we're actually thinking about it. And I think Charlie Kirk is another asset that is used to gain popularity and trust, but then he can come out and say things that really are against America, for example, or he supports certain entities that are disguised as allies but really are not our allies.
Yeah, I mean, like, no, I don't think any of us are anti-Charlie Kirk, but it's like...
I am.
Well, no, I'm simply saying, like, at the end of the day, is this who he always has been? Or is he another, like, Ben Shapiro, where he's always trying to interview and fight against college students to try to influence them as, like, a younger generation?
Well, and to be
or,
fair,
like,
to your
what he's
point,
going?
why can't he just debate Nick Fuentes? Why does he have to essentially only debate college students, or when he does appear on Fox News, get softball interviews?
Well, you can say the same thing about a lot of them.
But that's the thing.
I think Tucker Carlson's the only individual who does that.
I think people are worried about being seen as like what would you say? They're afraid of the conflict at the end of the day. I mean, you have to admit, it is a little weird that Charlie Kirk can only debate college students, or when he's on a big platform, it's either one-way talk, meaning he's giving a speech where he's not being interrupted. And, I mean, these people, if you look at them as leaders, they should be able to have uncomfortable conversations with people that disagree with them. I think that a lot of shows today, like even this one, I would not be opposed to having someone with different beliefs debating us, and to some people we may look like fools to some people because those people just agree with the other person.
Yeah, but to me, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, if you have an opinion, we want to hear it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say is, like, we could have a leftist on here and we might make them look like a fool to other conservatives, but to other liberals they might look like a saint, and vice versa. I just think that at the end of the day, if we can be honest with ourselves and have open conversation with people that have different beliefs, we leave it up to the public to really decide honestly what they think is true and what's not. And I think what we're seeing today is that a lot of people are being more honest with themselves and saying, okay, what this guy said is true, what this guy said isn't true. And what we're seeing is that there's really not as many leftists in America, true leftists, as we think, or true Democrats as we think. People are starting to come around and say, you know what? This is all bullshit. Turns out I lean more right than I thought. We've had people on the Cigar Guys that have admitted to being either ill-informed or changing their opinion just because they really didn't realize it.
Yeah, but I also believe, like, depending on your age, if you voted for JFK, Jimmy Carter, you probably wouldn't vote the same way today.
Right.
It's like...
But the problem is some of those people don't realize it or won't admit it.
Yeah, and if you're in the middle or moderate, you probably still would have voted for, like, a Bill Clinton, but you probably wouldn't have today.
Right. A Hillary Clinton.
But that's a strict left. I mean, that's a...
But that's what I'm saying. Like, Bill Clinton today is Hillary Clinton. Bill Clinton's out.
No, I'm saying if you voted for him in the 90s, you wouldn't have done the same thing today.
Right. No, I get what you're
20
saying.
years later.
Do you need another cigar?
I think so.
Okay. Do you want another one of these or you want something different?
Let's do something different. Well, I was going to know a cigar. I think the biggest thing today we can really focus on this Friday night is to focus on what brings people together. And I think that would be lowering interest rates. I think Trump's going to take care of that with the feds, the federal interest rates, just like he did when he ran the first term. I think once people see low gas prices, eggs going down, that's great too. But once people get something they can physically touch, something they can own, buying real estate, being able to get out of that apartment, put some funds together, and get to the point where you own some real estate, things come around. And I think people will start waking up more or less then. But to invoke long-term change, because we just can't have low interest rates every 4 to 8 years. We need people buying real estate and owning things, not just the billionaires, not just the big company owners, not just big tech or the government. We need people to really get in there and own where they were born. I think they will physically feel they're part of the American dream. I think that is really what matters, being able to actually own a home and support your family. Once again, regardless if you voted left or right. And then moving forward, we need accountability. I think that's what we've really been talking about for the last hour or so, really focusing on the individuals who have caused so much havoc and chaos in America. How do we hold them accountable long term?
I think what you're talking about, too, is essentially bringing back the real American dream. Owning property, really just being able to afford housing. I mean, people our age, a lot of them can't afford housing at the end of the day. I mean, rent is astronomical. Getting a mortgage is crazy if you can get approved. So having people or looking out for people's best interests and their needs, I think will bring back a better America. Because people do need to live, and I think ideally live comfortably. There should be no reason where someone could be in the greatest country on earth and not be able to live comfortably and have their needs met. We're cutting and lighting here a Bentley Green. Bentley is a great cigar company. The main USA rep who lives here close to us, great guy. Great cigars. They taste fantastic. They have the green and the white for now. I know that they're releasing a new one at some point soon, probably this year. But these are fantastic cigars. And of course, Bentley's a luxury brand, so who doesn't want to smoke a Bentley while driving in a Bentley? There's a Bentley parked outside my house right now. No bullshit.
That's actually true.
That's no bullshit. I am impressed. Sorry, real quick. I am impressed that we We were able to talk for almost 2 hours straight.
Really? I don't know. Well, I think we have a lot to talk about. But it's more or less what we can talk about, right? It's people are so concerned about what the mainstream media talks about. I think if you differentiate yourself, act indifferent, or really be indifferent, but detach yourself from the outcome. For the greater part of 8+ years, you had people from the right that would be called right-streaming extremists or whatever bullshit that was to say, release the Epstein files. And the left was like, who cares? Why? Because everyone you grew up with on the left, when it came to the music and Hollywood industry, always remember, they could be your heroes. My heroes too. Great music, great movies. They are not your friends. If they were on there and committed a crime, they should be held accountable. Especially on the left, when you hate millionaires and billionaires, if you want to hold people accountable, who better yet to hold accountable than people that manifest?
Well, my thing with that too is they hate billionaires, quote unquote, but they don't
Yeah.
hate certain billionaires.
Exactly.
Because Beyonce is their idol, and even though she's a billionaire, they don't hate her because she, quote unquote, represents them.
Yeah, I don't hate I don't hate anybody. I think Jesus Christ says to love everybody. What I'm saying is, I don't hate Beyonce. But what I'm saying is, if you were on Epstein files and if you trafficked a minor or trafficked anybody, minor would be an excessive charge or enhanced charge. You should be held accountable. And if a millionaire or billionaire who still only has one vote technically in America can't be held accountable, why is everyone else held accountable? And I think that's where people should hate the hate or, be angry about.
Right. What's funny too is I sent a screenshot of this, but I actually watched the video. It was 20 people arguing against John Morgan. And a majority of the talk was like, essentially this: you're a billionaire. How come you don't essentially give money out or help people that are in our situation? Or, different questions that you would ask a billionaire. Granted, it's 20 kids arguing with a lifetime attorney. So obviously, you're going to lose regardless of what he's saying, regardless of what you believe or not. You're losing the quote-unquote argument. But the point is, and whether it's authentic or not, I've met John Morgan quite a few times.
Yeah.
I've talked with him personally. Via family, they've had a relationship with him. But John Morgan on this show stated that he is a philanthropist and he has created businesses to employ people. He's donated X amount of money to certain organizations. Granted, he said that he wants to tax the rich more, but at the end of the show, he said he doesn't want to leave the government a penny. So we kind of caught him there in a slightly hypocrisy, so to say.
His base would agree on taxing the rich, which is ironic.
Right. And that's a whole conversation because you can tax the rich more all day long, but they're still not going to pay fucking taxes.
Well, because if you understand how taxes work, it's only taxing the poor. Right?
Exactly.
Because at the end of the day, if you're a multi-millionaire or billionaire, you own assets that are untaxable. You have loans. Even if you have loans as a poor person, that's untaxable. So if you have a loan against your own house,
If you raise taxes on rich people from, let's say, 40% to 60%,
it doesn't matter.
how much more are they paying in taxes?
None.
$0.
doesn't
$0. So I think that, like I said, it's 20 kids arguing against a lifetime lawyer / entrepreneur. I mean, one of the guys said that China is not a communist country and that France is a capitalist country. So we know the legitimacy of these people arguing with John Morgan. One of the guys straight up asked for a handout, said he wasn't asking for a handout, and John Morgan gave him $100 on the show, and he took it. So the point is, if you hate, or if you think you hate these billionaires, why do you pick and choose? And why do you hate billionaires generally? I can agree with people when they say that most billionaires in America are in it for the profits. That might be true. That could be true for sure. I'm sure that there's certain billionaires out there that do great things and help the economy and help people in some way, whether it's employment or whatever. But to generalize a group of people like that and say you hate all of them is stupid. Because at the end of the day, if we didn't have billionaires, you know how many people wouldn't have jobs?
Yeah, you can't take money away from the people who are paying you.
And it's like, well, they're profiting off the work of others. Well, guess what?
That's what a manager does.
That's just the way the world works at the end of the day. And if they weren't profiting in some way,
you wouldn't have a job.
they couldn't open up other Marriott hotels to hire more people. They couldn't open up other law firms or other businesses to hire more people. So the reality is no one is going to be, we're not ever going to reach a point in this life where everyone is equal in terms of money. It's just not possible.
Well,
In this life.
I'm saying that I don't believe in like UBI, like universal basic income, but I would say if Ron DeSantis gets rid of property taxes, that's like $6,000+ in everyone's pocket that goes back.
Well, absolutely. People are making more money, but it's not all going to be equal. My point is,
No, but
we're
it
not
puts
all,
it back
my
in.
my point is people are going to make more money than other people. And it is the responsibility of those people that are millionaires and billionaires to use that money not only for themselves and their families, but to benefit society. You're always going to have a boss to some degree. Majority of people, 90% of people, are going to work for somebody. And ideally, the people in charge, while benefiting from these businesses, are also going to help other people. We've seen that that's not the case, but we've seen that that is the case. So at the end of the day, universal basic income is bullshit. Everyone making the same amount of money is impossible and not practical.
Essentially, UBI is to publish or push more or less the agenda of socialism,
Right.
which will kill society. Because if you have a business, it'll kill your business. If you did, oh my gosh, what, like 8+ years, plus 4 years of residency, got your own MD, who cares?
Right.
Because socialism say, well, everyone gets healthcare the same.
But the thing is, like, without these businesses, there would be significantly less jobs because majority of people don't want to go out and start their own business and create something or work for themselves. A majority of people are going to go work a job, which is okay. But you can't go work a job and then turn around and say, F the billionaires. Because those are the people that essentially are employing you. You wouldn't have a job without these big organizations or just bosses in general. Even if you work at, let's say, like Publix, and you said, millionaires and billionaires are bad people. Get rid of them, you don't have a job. Are you going to go and create your own business and work for yourself? Majority of people won't. That's just fact.
This all goes back to 1913. If we could undo the last 110+ years, most people would be flourishing in other ways than one.
Right.
Essentially, get rid of taxes and only sales tax because you did business within the land you live in. The United States government would be limited.
Well, because we can ideally,
Narrow
like
it
what you're
down.
saying, put more money in people's pockets and make everyone live comfortably
Yeah.
without universal basic income.
In my personal opinion, if you're a commissioner, a mayor, United States representative, or senator, that's a luxury afforded to you by the United States people that voted for you to do something important. It's not a full-time job. Just like if you're a pastor. Are you fucking kidding me? You work 1 or 2 days a week for 1 or 2 hours. You get paid 40+ hours of full-time? No. You think God looks at you and thinks you should be paid for spreading the good word? No. That everyone should be doing that for free because you care about your neighbor.
Exactly. Ministry is not just for the pastors.
Yeah, I mean,
or
like
the priests.
I could vote differently with live next to Alex, but I say, hey, we need to have strong security in the neighborhood. So regardless of what you vote for, I'm not going to sit there and say, please pay me more or pay me at all. People voted for my ideals, but yet he agrees. even if we vote differently, we all agree on having a safe neighborhood or a safe community, safe city, safe county, and ideally safe state. And then everyone agrees that way, federally, we should all agree against all 50 states.
Right. But I do get what you're saying. It is possible, if we can take greed out of it, to create a system or recreate a system where people can afford housing, people can afford food, basic stuff, live comfortably. And it doesn't require us getting rid of billionaires.
I mean, personally, I think at the end of the day, regardless of how much corruption you get out, you'll never get a lobbyist because there'll always be somebody who's a friend of somebody who pays somebody to do something of whatever worth they want. But I think if we got term limits in, which would be amazing, which would take forever, but got rid of politicians' salaries.
That would require the clean clean slate. I think a clean slate is required in order to truly get term limits. Because the people that are sitting there currently aren't going to vote
exactly
for their unemployment. That's like me going to Jared and saying, "Hey, we think it's fair if you only stay in your job for 8 years. We're holding a vote for the company. I hope you vote to end your job in 8 years." Jared's going to say, "No, I don't want to." You can't leave it up to the people that are in those positions to essentially sign for their own unemployment, especially when they're making millions and millions of dollars from that position.
Yeah, that's what I don't get. Like, how can you possibly vote for the same person so many times?
And part of that is the fault of the people.
Yeah.
If you're voting the same person in and they've been in for 40 years and you haven't seen a dime of increase from them or anything positive in your life, why are you still voting for them?
But if the voting systems are electronic and there's one or two companies that own them, regardless of who you vote for, the illusion of the freedom will to vote has been taken away. And so when you vote, you're like, oh, well, the same person keeps getting in. You wouldn't know.
Right. But granted, we know that people are still voting for them anyway. But to your point,
maybe.
To your point,
there's no way AOC got in legally.
I think voter fraud is more widespread than we believed initially.
The fact they exposed it in Georgia, a conservative state, is only the beginning.
Right. No, but you make a great point. These people that have been in for 40 years, who knows if all their votes were fake anyway? Or fraudulent enough to make them win. Because you know you're going to have a certain group of people who vote for them because they're diehard Democrats or diehard Republicans. Then you just bump them up enough to get over 50%, essentially. And these people are so corrupt as it is, it would be illogical to believe that they can't control the vote, as we've seen in 2020 on a widespread scale. But I've talked to people that were election fraud deniers of 2020 that admitted election fraud's real, but not this big. It's like, okay. So you admit that it's real, but not big enough to create a fraudulent election for the presidency. Like, it happens sometimes, but to say that Biden illegitimately won is crazy. That's the type of people that we talk to sometimes.
Yeah, I don't care who you voted for, but at the end of the day, 14 million plus votes than Obama got in 2012 is, I mean, maybe a million or two, but are you saying that many babies were born, that many people turned, whatever?
Yeah.
To the point where they're like,
sure.
Oh, I'm of age to vote, plus I'm going to vote this way.
But you're essentially saying the quote-unquote best president ever, Obama, did worse than the worst president, Joe Biden, who was fumbling idiot, falling on himself, couldn't get a sentence out. This guy got 14 million more votes than the previous guy, who was God to some people. That's beyond absurd. To get that many more votes than, to some people, arguably, the best president ever, is bullshit. And no, we didn't have 14 million more voters that year. We didn't. We had more votes than people that were actually registered to vote in these counties. That's just a fact. So no, 2020 election, bullshit. Many smaller elections that you don't know about, bullshit. One of the biggest ones that we know was Al Gore and George Bush.
So that was the first one.
That was the first mainstream one that we can talk about.
But the irony is they're both in Skull and Bones, so it's like it would have been a win.
So who
either way.
cares if they? Who cares?
Well, wait.
It's like
Yeah, yeah.
it doesn't matter who won. 9/11 was still gonna happen.
Yeah, it's like me and you hate each other supposedly, but we smoke the same
Ah.
cigars. We go to the same cigar lounge. We graduate the same year. Same
It's like
club.
who's really in charge of the real news guys? Is it me or is it Jared? And does it matter at the end of the day?
No.
Doesn't matter if Jared's in charge or if I'm in charge. The same thing's gonna happen. No, that makes sense though. They're both in Skull and Bones. I mean, that's with 90% of politicians today. It doesn't matter who wins. You're still gonna have the same outcome, in a lot of cases. Which is sad, because you have the illusion of democracy.
That's the thing is somewhat good, but dumb when Trump was saying that, like, oh, we should audit the family members. But it's like Trump's like another Bush or another Kennedy, where it's like if they audit everybody, they're all millionaires and billionaires anyway. So it doesn't fucking matter. Like it's like Ron DeSantis got audited recently, where his wife has some foundation. It's like she had that before they got in power. It's like now they're in trouble because now they're in power. It's like you gotta be careful with this. You know, it's a slippery slope.
Yeah, I think that goes back to the generalization. And it's all talking points. We have to hold everyone accountable. And some people take that as everyone's treated the same. But at the end of the day, situations are always different. So for example, well, Ron DeSantis' wife has a foundation. Okay, but she had that foundation prior. So this is a different situation. So you have to look at every situation with equal, let's say,
Even if she didn't, how do you say, like, your own wife didn't have an idea to help other people? Now it becomes like, well, no one in your family can do anything because you're running now.
right.
Just like in Trump's family, he has that one weird cousin that hates him, and it's like all
Fred
this.
Trump. No, wait, that's his brother. Sorry.
No.
That's his brother.
It's I think it starts with M. It's a girl.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I'm saying, like, at the end of the day, it's like if someone votes Democrat but you ran as Republican and they hate you, it's like they're never looked at in a negative light because they're running against you anyways. I'm just saying, like, you have a foundation that helps other people, maybe doesn't. It'll always be negative against you. So
Right.
all of a sudden, everyone has to kill their own business.
But that's when you go deeper and look at, okay, well, let's look at where the money's going. So, for example,
Slippery slope.
okay, but Clinton Foundation.
Slippery slope.
I understand it's a slippery slope, but if you can prove that a foundation is acting with ill will, and in reality they're making more money than they're actually giving or providing, we can look into that. The Clinton Foundation, I think, is a great example. The Clinton Foundation was essentially a money laundering scam.
Yeah, I mean, you can say that about most foundations. I'm saying, like, say we had our own, we got famous here. How do you distinguish that from, like, promoting getting new cameras, new lighting, versus someone who says, oh, you know, I was helping someone else out. It's like you're already a millionaire or billionaire. So what do you do then? It's difficult. I don't know the answer, actually.
That's fair. That is fair.
Like, prime example, let's be honest. So if you reverse all the LLCs on Sunbiz in Florida, like, Trump is not on any of them anymore. But we all know. We all love him. But the fact of the matter is, it's your dad. He has access to capital.
There's always a loophole.
Yeah, it's always a loophole. You can
And
always,
at the end of the day, yeah, to your point, which you just made or alluded to, you're just going to not take care of your dad or not make
Exactly.
sure.
that's like me putting 100 grand in a bank account and say, here's a debit card. Fuck it. We have no money, but here's 100 grand. It's easy. It's so
Right.
easy to bypass. It's untraceable. It's so easy.
And that kind of goes back to the whole, like, tax the rich more thing. It's like, okay, yeah, you're taxing them more, But guess what? They're still paying $0 in taxes. Or maybe Trump doesn't make money on paper, but he can still acquire, at the very least, basic needs, assets, whatever. I mean,
if you have an asset, you can pump up the value of an asset and borrow against it. And once it's debt, you have cash to spend. So at the end of the day, it's a margin loan. It's untaxable.
And going back to John Morgan, he always says, Forbes claims I'm a billionaire. He never says I am a billionaire. He says Forbes magazine says that I'm a billionaire. But two, at the end of the day, that doesn't. If you're a billionaire, it doesn't mean you have $1 billion of liquid asset or liquid $1 billion in the bank. It means that your assets combined equal $1 billion. If you have $1 billion in the bank, you're probably a trillionaire at the end of the day.
I mean, FIDC only protects individual bank accounts up to 250 grand, so you'd never keep that kind of cash on hand.
Exactly. You can have multiple bank accounts, though, but the point is, if someone's a millionaire, it doesn't mean they have $1 million liquid.
Exactly.
Well, that's like with Elon Musk being worth, what, 40-something billion dollars?
40.
Worth, I don't know. What is it?
It's like, I think it's like 400.
Out of zero. $400 billion. Elon Musk is worth $400 billion. He doesn't have $400 billion in the bank. That's just not how it works. If you're a millionaire, that's including your house, your business, your cars, whatever. You're not a millionaire and have $1 million in the bank. Meaning, like, that's not just a fact. You could have $1 million in the bank, but a lot of times, most millionaires have $1 million worth of assets where they can leverage their position to be considered a millionaire.
I mean, even this conversation is bullshit because at the end of the day, it's a distraction on how you can improve yourself. And so at the end of the day, you know, are you working out, are you going to the gym, are you eating healthy, are you focusing on income? You can't be focused on those that are above you or so you claim above you.
Yeah.
Just because someone has more money means nothing out of their own character or their own faith. I mean, they could die today and lose everything.
It's rooted in jealousy because if you're looking at a billionaire and you're mad at him because you're in a shitty position, it's like, do something about it. This person doesn't know you exist. So what do they have to do with you?
And once again, you only know they exist, as Gonzo said, because of what? The mainstream media told you this. Someone told you this. Even Forbes, they make a guess. They don't know about private assets or trust assets. They only know about pure LLCs. Even then, that's a guess.
Exactly.
Prime example. We go on Forbes Top 100. Look at all the family names that don't exist. We don't have to list them here, but you can guess. You don't see any of Saudi Arabia on there. If it is, it's like one or two princes, but there's way more than one or two princes.
Right.
You see,
they can build entire nations, but they're only worth a few $1 billion.
Yeah, it's all spread out, and they're all related. Just like the crown's on there. It's mainly America because like individual companies, not just families. And families branch out where companies are limited. Or maybe corporates too. But I'm saying they're limited as well. They can list out on their CEOs.
Well, too, yeah. If your name's not tied to it, it's not going to be in your umbrella.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a trust that can't be reversed in like Wyoming, for example,
right,
that owns like LLCs or corporations, you can't really, you can guess, but you don't know the actual amount.
Exactly. I mean, you can own an LLC that owns a trust, that owns a company, that owns this. If it's never tied back to you, it's technically not yours, but you're still reaping the rewards from it. But to your point, Forbes doesn't know about it. They can't add that to your portfolio. Even there's that famous clip of Steve Will Do It. And they ask him, excuse me, how much money do you make? He says 50 grand a year. We all know that someone making 50 grand a year can't afford the cars or the houses that he has. But it's a funny thing because it's like, listen, oh yeah, I only make 50 grand a year. For tax reasons, he's saying that.
Which, I mean, he may not be lying. He might have a company. I don't like
On paper, 50 grand. Maybe he
clipping
does make
company.
50 grand a year on paper. But the point is, he obviously is reaping the benefits of someone that's a millionaire. And it's not him on paper, but he's able to reap the benefits of that. And that's a whole different financial / legal discussion. I mean, that's how the rich get richer. That's how they can make so much money without actually reporting it. The government doesn't know about it. And anyone watching or anyone that argues against it would do the same thing. I don't care what you say.
I don't know, it's 2025. When do we get to the point where everyone wakes up? You know, it's like you see the Florida governor talking about removing property taxes. That reverts back to like old school 2013, just sales tax. Which, if you do business on the land, you pay sales tax. Nothing wrong with that. Income tax is another one. I think Trump and folk will slowly get rid of that. I mean, even Saudi Arabia doesn't have it. I mean, we are like the other countries that have it, where to the point we're so much taxed you can never get ahead. I think that's what we're seeing now, and most people for the last 3 generations were born into it, so you don't really know the difference, and you're like, oh my gosh, we have to do this because why? You outnumber the government that you put in place.
Right.
But you don't put in place the government that is telling you what to do.
No, I agree. I think hopefully we head down that route where income tax is revoked. Sales tax, sure. But yeah, I mean, it's like we've become so comfortable in how we
Acclimated.
operate,
Yeah.
acclimated, everything that the system has been normalized so much where people just pay their taxes every year and they don't realize that they could get deductions. They just say, this is how much I owe according to so-and-so. I'm going to pay that. But they don't realize that there's so many deductions and that they can, pay less to the IRS and put in their pocket. And at the end of the day, paying less to the IRS and putting more money in your pocket not only benefits you, but it benefits the economy. Because if everyone's spending more money, the economy overall is doing better. And more people are getting paid. More people can buy more things. Not to go down the greed route, but it's like, listen, if the economy is in a better position, that means everyone's doing better personally.
That's the irony of like someone like Al Capone. They only got him on taxes. But that was like, what, the 30s or 40s? I mean, tax law was only, 10, 20 years new.
Right.
That made no sense.
Well, it makes you think, too, that maybe some of these tax laws were made because of people like him.
Exactly.
But they've left it so where they themselves can use the loopholes to avoid paying taxes themselves.
I think the only reason they got him on quote-unquote taxes is because, well, he probably didn't have like trusts or individual companies set up. It's just he had cash on hand from the companies that was draining money.
And they were able to catch him with cash that wasn't being reported, so to say. Because back then, like to your point, there's no
Yeah.
need to form a trust and all these LLCs and all this and that.
Yeah.
And to him being in essentially the cash business, raking all this cash, you just don't report it. And someone ended up catching him, and that's how they got him.
Yeah, they must have catched him like physically touching it because
Right.
like makes 0 sense. Because I don't know. It's not like he had a family restaurant or. I mean, even when he got out of prison, he had that multi-million-dollar home in South Beach, Miami. It's like,
There's a movie on that,
Yeah, a
actually.
whole
and
movie on
Tom
that.
Hardy was a star. I just happened to come across that like a couple months ago. Boring-ass movie, by the way.
yeah,
Boring as fuck. I mean, Tom Hardy, great actor. He played the role perfectly, but like, I don't know, it was just boring.
personally,
It was over, and I was like, damn, that's it.
And personally, I think they just let them die of syphilis because, I mean, I'm pretty sure they had penicillin back then.
Right. You're right. But no, that movie sucked. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah, I don't know. What's interesting is that in the last 100 years, what you find is any person they claim to be radical, has some new idea, super intelligent, anybody that has anything to say that does not agree with the mainstream media is indicted, goes to prison for life, dies in prison, or has some type of trouble.
When you
Think
say
about it.
stuff like that, it really shows you how much
There's a pattern.
Well, yeah, that, but how much control the government / the elites have over situations or certain people. Meaning they have so much power that if you in any way challenge them, they have the ability to either put you in prison or take you off the face of the earth. Which is sad because no man should have that power. And it is rooted in evil.
Unless we all voted on it and it's like transparent, which is not the case.
Yeah. I mean, that's like going to trial and you're proven guilty of committing a crime. Sure, but there's a lot of cases we've seen where people just seem to disappear and we don't really know why. And if they're an asset like Kanye West, we still see them and they're maybe still able to be used. But if it's a nobody that's able to go against the agenda or bring light to something, they just disappear and we never hear about them.
What's interesting about the Kanye West thing is that with Michael Jackson, he died, quote unquote, but they made him a pedophile. And then Prince, he just committed suicide. It's like, and then MLK got shot. Like, I don't know, there's a bunch of them.
Yeah.
It's all different. Which is sad because, like, if you're that powerful, how can we not have people protecting you?
Well, I think, like, are you referring to Michael Jackson?
Well, suppose he got drugged up, which I think is a bunch of bullshit. Just like the actor in Batman who played Joker got drugged up and killed himself too, which makes no sense.
So, like, if we use Michael Jackson for an example, at the time, maybe there wasn't a need for that protection. Meaning, like, back in the day,
Maybe, but like when you're when someone's saying you're a fucking pedophile, if you kill yourself, then look like you actually did it. For him, they had a doctor who got sued who they claimed that like overdrugged him. Prince said like someone was chasing him or something like that, disappeared and died. But I mean, you also look
right?
at,
But I guess my point is, like, in their position, they may have not realized the seriousness of that situation, and that the
doubt it.
elites would have the reason or the balls to kill him.
I doubt it.
You don't think so? You
Are you
think
fucking kidding me?
I think Michael Jackson sat there and was like, "They're gonna kill me."
Oh, 100%. Why else would someone frame you as a pedophile? I'd be fucking scared.
I know, but that's you today. What I'm saying is, in his position, he may have not even considered that a possibility. He may have said, like, well, yeah, they're accusing me of this. I'll just fight it and hope that, the public understands it's not true.
Yeah, but then he dies. I'm saying, like, if you're worth $100 million plus, like Trump, for example, everyone, you walk out of your house, you have protection. There's no way.
Well, so let's say this. Maybe he did have protection and he did have those plans in place, but they got to his protection.
That is true. I do believe that.
Yeah. I mean, that's just the next step. It's like, okay, well, he has all this protection. We just have to infiltrate it somehow.
Because regardless of what you think about Jay-Z or Diddy, it's like, look what they're being, brought into or pulled into now. Regardless of money, it's difficult. But then, when you look at someone like Kanye West, it's like, the worst thing I do is slander his name. Yeah, he's still protected, which I don't understand how. It's got to be Trump, the Patriots, the military. Someone's protecting him. Which I completely agree with. I think he should be able to speak his mind.
Or maybe it's like they don't view his influence and what he's doing as that detrimental to their plan.
Then what was so negative about Prince or
I truly don't know.
you know what I mean? But like MLK, I could see where it's like this guy's a leader, outspoken, pre-internet, pre-CD.
Yeah, but that could just been them using
Pre-
him as a martyr. Like, he might have not actually done anything to hinder their agenda, but him being killed actually ended up promoting their agenda more.
I guess I don't know. I just
Like, if he wasn't killed, it could have just fizzled out and everyone would forget about it. But because he was killed, it added weight to their agenda.
like to scare others.
Well, let me put it to you this way. If you come out and say, the sky is green. We've been lied to this whole time. The sky is green. It looks like it's blue, but it's really not. And then they kill you over it. I'm going to go, why would they kill him over that? Unless he was right. And obviously, that's a stupid example and it's not true. But if they kill you over something, it's because there's actually weight to that. So with MLK, it's like they use it in the reverse where it's like, okay, well, MLK is coming out and saying all this stuff about we need to be treated equally, da da da. But they used it in such a way to push a different agenda, which was, in the long term, multiculturalism and diversity, which can be used in the wrong way. Because, like you've said previously, we all should live, you know, amongst each other and be pro-American, whatever. But you can use diversity and multiculturalism to the disadvantage of a nation. And I think that's ultimately what the plan was.
Yeah, I guess. I just think that if you let them speak their mind, it could either die out, like you said, or it doesn't die out. Maybe that's what they're scared of.
Right, but the point is, like, if their plan was to take what he was saying and promote it further, they kill him, and then it's like, well, wait a minute, why'd they kill him? Maybe what he was saying is right, and then that adds more weight to it. So it's almost like a reverse psychology move. Because if they let him continue speaking and it just died out and it's like, oh, whatever, then they're not able to push their agenda. Because he was an asset himself. MLK Files came out. He was an asset.
Yeah.
So they used him as a martyr in order to further push the agenda. Because him speaking out about it wasn't enough.
So, like, who've died today in a similar fashion? I think most people just die, and they always think it's a drug overdose or some bullshit.
Well, I think that if they die in that manner, it's because they wanted to silence them.
Like,
And
there's
not
a
use
whole-
them as a martyr.
Like, there's a whole conspiracy of, like, all these, like, famous, like, musicians who died at, like, 27. Like, Avicii died.
I think that's more of a demonic thing. That's selling your soul for fame, essentially. I think there's different levels to it, or there's different reasons. So, for example, if Trump died from his assassination attempt, his base would actually have been stronger today if he had died, I think. So
I still don't believe that shot, though.
No, that's what I'm saying. I don't believe it, but what I'm saying is if that was a legitimate assassination attempt and he had died from it, the MAGA base would have exploded. So I'm kind of using that as the martyr example. So realistically, they probably didn't want him to die because it would have actually backfired on him. But, like, for example, Michael Jackson dying, did that really do anything?
There's a truth where they say, like, some artists they're worth more dead, right? Because you can resell the albums, publish content they never published, and then also you don't have to pay them. That is truth too.
That's what I'm trying to say is, like, there's different reasons for people being killed off.
Yeah.
It could either be for a martyr, or it could be for exploitation, or it could be to silence someone. But if you're able to, like, take Kanye, for example, if you can effectively paint Kanye as mentally insane, then you don't have to kill him. But if enough people start to believe that he is right, then you look at it and say, well, maybe we should kill him because we need to silence him. But then again, it goes back to the conversation where it's like, if we kill him, does the message grow stronger?
Exactly. And if he still published music, it's like, what do you do then? He still does whatever he wants. Maybe not the same words, but
I think too, at the end of the day, we always talk about like there's, the man behind the curtain, but I think that there's too many people behind the curtain, and the elites and the people that are against us, sometimes they are in disagreement on how they operate. So maybe some of them want to kill Kanye West, maybe some of them don't. So there's really no one true plan. Like, it's like they're all evil, but they think about it differently or they plan it differently. Like, there's not, I think we can all agree there's not one man behind the curtain, so to speak. It's a group of people. But even people like us, who are so similar in beliefs, we might disagree on certain things.
yeah, maybe so. So going forward, going like full circle here, regardless of like the Trump-Russia thing, when do people start waking up? Crossfire Hurricane, the Trump thing in Russia, his first term was a bunch of bullshit. We have that, those files are released, and it's a bunch of bullshit. When do people, finally wake up, and when are people actually held accountable? I think that is the biggest issue, because regardless if you vote left or right, no one sees anyone being arrested. So they think like, oh, cool, I can go to social media and say, fuck you. You are some kind of like sexual predator. You are in bed with Russia. I'm not saying attack them because I want freedom of speech. What I'm saying is, at the end of the day, if no one's held accountable, people on the left can gaslight themselves and actually believe in something that's not true. So how do we differentiate that, and how do we get people back on course?
To answer your first question real quick.
Just real fast, real fast.
Okay.
So say, like, we talked about this the other night on Tuesday. So, like, when 9/11 happened, everyone's like, holy shit. Potentially, a country was against us, and potentially a certain religion was against us. So everyone's like, we gotta band together. And I think that was a psyop within itself. It got people together, but all for the wrong reasons, which we know today to be factual. But what I'm saying is, like, now I think people are slowly being exposed to the fact that, like, I don't want to say it here. This is our first live. The friend that we always thought we had.
I think it's better to say it earlier before we get famous.
I'm just saying, the friend that we always thought we had may not be a friend.
Well, and I was going to bring up,
I'm just saying. Maybe I'm wrong.
To answer,
Maybe I'm wrong.
To answer your question, when are people going to start breaking up? I was going to say it would have to be some sort of 9/11 in the sense of a tragic catastrophe of some sorts that brings us all together. But it would have to be a legitimate one. Like 9/11, for example, as you said, they pinned us all against the wrong person.
But
So we were all together, but we had the wrong information, so we blamed the wrong entity.
exactly.
So in order for us to all wake up, there would have to be a situation that exposes the true enemy that we can all agree on and go against.
But they would never do this naturally.
Not naturally, no, of course not. So it would have to be a natural and organic situation that exposes who's really against us. Will that happen? I don't know. I think at the end of the day, like we talked about previously, there's always going to be a spiritual warfare. And at the end of the day, we're all going to die. Jesus is going to come back and save us at the end of the day. But it's like, regardless of what happens on this earth, it doesn't even matter at the end of the day. Maybe on this earth, Satan is supposed to win. But then Jesus comes back and we're all saved. So it's like,
Which would, are we in the 1,000 years or before?
well, I don't
1,000
think we're in the
years?
1,000 years.
Or-
Some people argue that the 1,000 years has already happened,
That's crazy.
which
But I'd
who
love to hear
knows?
it.
I honestly don't know. But at the end of the day, all I know is that Christ reigns forever. So we're not at the end for sure. I mean, it doesn't make sense. But to your point, something needs to happen that's a true incident that exposes evil in order for us to all get together. Because right now, they're in control of the narrative. And even 9/11, when it happened, we all got together, but
That was such
we
a
were
short period of
tricked.
time.
But too, we were tricked into thinking that it was Iran somehow.
I thought it was Iraq.
Or Iraq, sorry, Iraq. And we all blamed Iraq and the Muslims generally. But it turns out
Which
it
I
was
disagree with.
someone else.
Yeah.
I need a juice box. I'm thirsty. But so that's it at the end of the day.
I guess over the hours we've been talking, it's like the common theme what you notice is, which I don't like, is that if you grew up in our parents' time and you had the Russian missile crisis back in the day in Cuba, everyone was like, holy shit, we have to be against communism. And nowadays, you're the left promoting socialism, which is one step away from communism. And there's a confusion where it's like freedom versus like let the government control it because they want to control everybody. But why would you control everybody if everyone doesn't agree? So now it becomes who's the real dictator? If we're the last free land, and obviously the newest, because newest experiment is America, how do we differentiate ourselves? We have to work hard to promote freedom. Now, getting involved in other wars, I completely disagree. Funding other wars, I completely disagree. But I also don't understand how we can be a helping hand if we don't. Now, I'm not saying we pick and choose, but we have to pick and choose. So how do we do that? That's a little scary. But I also think that we have friends that we hate, but the difference is we respect. And I think when it comes to the economy, that's like China and Taiwan. When it comes to military power, we have like Russia. You have other countries that supply other things. Like hydrochloroquine, which we can't talk about here, was mentioned back in like 2018, 2019 from Trump from India. And I think that everyone has a purpose to provide something of value. And I think that needs to be more focused on than the hate that the
Right.
mainstream media promotes. I don't agree in hate. I have friends that vote left. I have friends that vote right, which I also don't agree upon. I think there's issues on both sides. But what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, all I care about is how to protect my friends and family and how do we promote America. And that's not getting involved in more wars or giving more weapons to anybody. And I don't give a fucking shit about stocks we have here that promote those companies that do that. Even though I have friends and family in these companies, I disagree with promoting or giving any kind of defense system to any companies in or outside of America that would give it away to these companies just to increase the stocks. I think we really need to be pro-America. I really think we need to get to the point where our veterans are off the streets, our homeless are off the streets, and we are no longer addicted to opioids. I don't give a shit about like things that God created, like weed. I guess as long as you're not smoking and driving,
My view on that
I don't
is-
really care, but
like, yes, weed is natural. God made it.
don't abuse it, I guess.
Right. Because, too, I mean, alcohol can be abused and used not properly. So there's nothing wrong with you having, a little bit of alcohol, glass of wine for dinner, couple shots, whatever. But obviously people use it improperly and it results in bad things. Same with weed. I think that, and this is going back to the John Morgan thing, he talked about it. He doesn't have a problem with weed, but he does believe that at a young age, especially if you use it a lot, it'll fry your brain. So it goes back to really anything, even just food. If you overconsume food, you're gonna get fat and you're gonna be unhealthy. So whatever it is that you do, don't overconsume. Anything can be, even this TikTok, social media. If you're on social media 20 hours a day, your brain's gonna be fried. If you're smoking weed all hours of the day, your brain's gonna be fried. If you're drinking alcohol all hours of the day, your brain's gonna be fried, and your liver and all this other stuff. So, as Jared drinks alcohol, but no, but seriously, we can partake in these things as long as we don't let it control our lives. I think that's the whole message for that situation. But to your real quick, you brought up us all getting along, and
Did I?
I something like that. I think what I was gonna say to one of your points was a lot of Americans look at Russia and just view them as a bad guy. But we've talked about this with friends of ours. We get along with a lot of the people that live in Russia. We have a lot in common religiously, how we live. So it's like, at the end of the day, the average American citizen might actually have a lot in common with the average Russian citizen.
Yeah, like, do we believe like Brittany Griner should got 10 years for hash? No,
Right.
but like we do believe in the Christian Orthodox of Russia itself. Do we believe in the respect that they have nuclear warheads? Maybe, but we do
Supposedly.
respect. I mean, do I think they have them? Maybe not, but I do respect they are a superpower of the world.
Right.
I think we treated everyone that way would be great too. We do not want to get involved in new wars.
I think at the end of the day, like you said, we can benefit from each other. Different people and different nations have certain things they can bring to the table, and we can benefit from each other. That's what trade's all about. China specializes in certain things, Russia specializes in certain things, and the United States specializes in certain things. We can all benefit from each other through trade, and we can live in our own countries peacefully. There's no reason for us to be fighting. We can produce what we produce, sell it, and export, import, whatever. There's no reason for us to be fighting at the end of the day. I think is what we're kind of getting at is we can all live peacefully, provide for our own people and provide for people outside of our country, and all live in peace. I don't think there's a reason for us to be living without peace. You know, like, do any of these countries really want to take over the other? I don't think so. I don't
No.
understand why.
Because I'm saying is this: if nuclear assets do exist, and it's a threat, yet if all the superpowers have nuclear assets, it's kind of a zero-sum game. You wouldn't
Right.
nuke an area in which you want the assets from. It makes no sense.
Right.
The Art of War,
for
Sun
a
Tzu.
simplified example, Russia nukes the United States. We nuke back. All
We-
the other countries send their nukes too.
Yeah, we fucked each other. So there's nothing. So all you're doing is killing people instead of gaining the assets. So,
but not only that, everyone's dead.
well, that and the
for the
fact of the
most
matter is
part.
like, what you see now. Like, let's be honest. So, South America, especially Mexico, is the war from within. They cross the border. China is the war from within through the economy. Russia is peace through strength, just like the United States. So I have nuclear warheads. North Korea, which I don't technically believe they have them.
North Korea is a good example from the point of like, okay, let's say they do have all the nukes,
Dumb country.
hypothetically, and they nuke the United States.
Are they insane?
What do they gain from that?
Nothing.
They destroy themselves because they're
'cause-
going to get nuked by 100 other countries.
And then it'd just be Korea because South Korea exists, not North Korea. Which also,
Granted, they would probably die too.
yeah, because it's so close. So, which makes you question: do nukes exist? I'm not saying they don't. I'm simply saying if everyone nuked each other, it's a zero-sum game. We've
so
lost
even if
everything.
even if they do exist, would they ever be used?
Exactly. So, like, what's the point? We'd
At this
all
point,
hurt
it's
each
like,
other.
okay, let's say the United States drops a bomb, 2 of them, on Japan. Now all the superpowers have nukes. It's essentially like, okay, listen, now one country can't nuke everyone else. We all have nukes. So if you nuke this country, all these other countries are going to nuke you back and each other. We all die. So hypothetically, if nukes do exist and we all have them, they're never going to be used because we'll all just die anyway. There's no reason for them. But if one country had nukes, that would be a problem because then everyone else would die. Like, let's say the United States was the only one that had nukes. We could just nuke anyone without repercussions. But now because everyone has nukes, supposedly, we can't nuke each other. Because if we nuked Russia, we'd be dead. So, it's almost irrelevant. The nuclear conversation, at least.
Yeah, I think for most people of age who still vote, I think the nuclear conversation is a scare tactic to get most people to vote. I'm not saying they don't exist. What I'm simply saying is, at the end of the day,
it's not a real issue.
It's not a real issue because it's a zero-sum game. If I nuke you, you nuke me, we're both dead. And the residential assets on both sides would be essentially destroyed for years to come.
But that's
if
why
you actually believe Nagasaki and all that bullshit was actually nuked.
But that's why they have to say that, like, Putin's a madman or Kim Jong Un's a madman because it's like, well, because they are madmen, they don't care and they're gonna nuke this country because the world's gonna explode in itself. So it's like, okay, well, at the end of the day, that goes back to the Hitler conversation. Why would they do it? Meaning, why would they kill themselves? Essentially, if they're if they're truly power hungry, let's say they are evil. If they're power hungry, why would they destroy the entire world?
The real nuke, what I believe, is that if you follow World War II, we went to Vietnam, Korean War, Desert Storm, 9/11, all the wars fall afterwards. They're land grabs or asset grabs, right? It's never an actual, we're going to nuke your land and kill everything because they need the assets.
It's not an organic war.
It's not an organic war, and I don't think nukes are either. It's all man-made. So, like, if we can find both sides of war, we're both making money on the bank side. Troops on the ground make it real, not a false flag. But we make money on both sides and grab assets and then transfer assets back. So someone's making money regardless if you find both sides or not.
So which is why we've alluded to so many times since World War I, we think there's a certain system that's been in place. Because World War I is like one of the most identifiable moments where it's begun. And we've said before, it could have been from the beginning of the United States. That's a whole different conversation. People believe that the United States was founded by the Masons. George Washington was a Mason. We can go down that rabbit hole. But World War I is a good point to pinpoint where it's like since then, all the wars have been essentially bullshit. Like you said, land grabs, asset acquiring. I mean, Vietnam is always used as a perfect example of a war we shouldn't have been involved in. Iraq, weapons of mass destruction, which was all bullshit. But there's always something to gain at the end of the day. So it's like, well, we went to the war with this country, and we won, maybe, or maybe we didn't even win, but we still got something out of it, meaning the government got something out of it, or the elites got something out of it. So a lot of the scare tactics and talking points used, I guess what we're trying to say is they're all bullshit.
I would agree.
Whether it's nuclear or just war in general. There's a lot to be gained from the Ukraine-Russia war. Not to us, but to the elites. Israel-Palestine, it's benefiting someone. It's not benefiting us, but it's benefiting someone. And all these wars that we've been involved in, someone's benefiting, but it's not the American people. You've been going for 2 hours and 44 minutes.
Is that a problem?
No, I'm just stating. I think it's an achievement. I think the longest podcast on the Cigar Guys was 2 hours and 45 minutes. So essentially, we were matching that at this moment in time. And honestly, again, I'm going to say it again. I'm impressed with how much we've talked.
Well, I mean, there's a lot to talk about, but I feel as there's. I'm saying is this. I don't want the base that voted for Trump in 2016, 2017 to disappear. I think that there are a lot of people. You have to understand, like, Trump was a Democrat up until he ran for president.
Pretty much.
Everyone loved him until they hated him, which it's like.
Everyone loved him until they had a reason to hate him.
Well, it's just like going to a bar. You have all your drinking buddies. Everyone loves you until you stop buying shots. People love you until you're like, wait a minute, hey, my credit card declined.
That's where you know your true friends are.
Or you're saying, hey, wait a minute, I'm gonna go work out for a bit. I'm not gonna drink anymore, and everyone's like, what's wrong with you? And all of a sudden, it's like, wait a minute, you're not my friend anymore. They don't support you. I'm not saying that's what happened to him necessarily. But
get your drinking game up.
Trump doesn't drink, but in his situation, I think that it's more or less he's like, hey, I have a ginormous family. I may be rich, but I don't give a shit, and I want to protect my family. And since he's a New Yorker, he doesn't have a bunch of land, so to speak. It's more or less how to protect my properties, protect my generation, to my sons, my daughters. All of a sudden, everything got real. And then people were like, wait a minute, we can't control you anymore. Because they thought they did, because it's like they thought he had an ego. His game was always ego. He doesn't care about the ego. He has the money. He can always do whatever he wants to do anyways. Now, bear in mind, he could run out of money, but that's not going to happen in our timeline. So this slander him, attack him, whatever. And the reason why Trump's such a great example is that if they can try to put a billionaire in jail in Georgia, try to indict him in New York, if they could do that to him, if you don't have money for a lawyer, imagine what's going to happen to you. And I don't give it. Once again, I do not care if you feel that's right because I have friends on both sides. You have to put in the picture is that, like, if you can't get a lawyer, you're going to prison. And once you go into that system, it's pretty much over. Unless you have someone like Trump that can get you out, like that Chrisley guy recently got out. Chrisley?
I think it, yeah.
Chrisley? Flamboyant Southern guy. They supposedly caught him on embezzling funds in a company. I don't understand it. I don't know. I've never heard of him, actually, until like this year. But Trump gave him a commute, and he got out really soon. I'm just saying that, like, at the end of the day, unless you're powerful, you're going to get fucked. I think the prison system here is unfair. I think the justice system can be really rough and tough. You got to have a lawyer. I mean, I've been through it myself. I don't want to get into details here. 3 times it's happened to me. I get it. I know it's taken years of my life. It's my fault. I'm not going to blame anybody else. But what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, it's like you can be caught up in something. And if you don't have friends or a lawyer, I mean, it's over. Your life ended. It's a tough situation. I think Trump's been very fair. I mean, what's crazy about Trump, it's like he's even pardoned like rap instances right here in Florida where like they done some dumb shit, but like at the end of the day, it's like who gives a shit if he did a little bit of drugs? I'm not pro drugs, but at the end of the day, it's like
at the end of the day, let's say this: did what they do affect other people realistically, or was it like for example, weed charges a lot of times is like people that possess weed.
Yeah,
like
I love red states, but you gotta be careful. You're gonna destroy an entire person's life over a little bit.
Exactly.
Of weed.
Like at the end of the day, like our friend John is carrying weed and he gets arrested and his life is ruined. Is that really fair? If he was smoking weed on his own time, he wasn't selling it, he wasn't peddling it, nothing. He just chose to smoke weed and then he gets arrested and his life is ruined. Is that really fair? That's like saying, I'm going to arrest Joe for drinking too much. I mean, you could argue, people argue all the time that alcohol is worse than weed. And maybe that's true. But, like, yeah, I agree with you when you're saying this. Like, there's certain instances where people get arrested and tried. And it's like, they didn't affect anyone else's life at the end of the day. They were doing it on their own.
Yeah, I mean, I do think liver kills your. I mean, I think I think liquor kills your liver, but with weed, it's a little different. I know Florida's a lot more strict, but at the end of the day, it's like,
But the whole point is like you're doing it to yourself.
yeah,
And sure, it's wrong maybe, but like you're not affecting anyone else. As long as you're not affecting anyone else, it's like I get like, you're selling to kids, big red flag. You shouldn't be selling drugs to kids. That's ridiculous. Sure, you can try those people, but possession charges for users, like I don't know. I'm not. Listen, Kamala Harris was a big proponent for that. She arrested and tried essentially so many people
in
for
California, which is wild.
in California for possession charges. Thank God she didn't get elected. Oh my God. Not just because of the weed thing, but
Wow.
because she's a freaking moron.
Fake vice president, but
Yeah. Fake president, fake vice president. She had to blow some guy to get to where she is today, which is ridiculous itself. If you have to blow someone to get into the position you're at today, that should say something.
I don't know. I don't want to get into that because I don't care about her, but I'm glad she's not president. I don't think she'll win California.
No.
I think it's a big issue. Like I said before, I think that if they ran Hillary Clinton and Michelle Obama in 2024, they'd have done so much better. I think
I actually agree with you on that.
I think they failed
I think,
so
yeah.
hard.
I
They have
think-
two
I think-
women, two different races, and they both have experience versus two people. It's like, are you insane?
Yeah. It's almost like they said, well, you tried and it didn't work out. We can't do it again. But realistically, I agree with you. If they ran Hillary Clinton, I think they would have had a better shot than Kamala Harris.
All they had to do was run Michelle Obama as president and Hillary Clinton as vice president, and they'd had like 40 plus years of
Yeah.
experience. They've done so well, and that'd have been amazing. I think that'd been a great one for them.
For them. Thank God they didn't, but
Well, I mean, like I said, I don't care who you vote for left or right. But at the end of the day, it's like, why wouldn't you run your best candidates? And that's where the conspiracy comes in, where it's like, why? They could have done it. They fucked up. That makes no logical sense.
which is why people say that Trump winning is a part of the plan too.
So, yeah, I've seen that too. I just don't believe it.
At this point, I don't believe it either, and I hope it's not true. But if it came out, it wouldn't surprise me. I'd just be like, well, take me now. Let's just end it.
What, the rapture? What do you mean, take me now?
Well, yeah, Jesus. Couldn't come soon enough. 2030 agenda. Maybe that's when he's coming. I don't know. 4 years away. 5 years away? 4.5 years away. Who knows?
No, I mean, if you read those books with Trump like 150 years ago, I don't believe it's going to happen.
I
Right
mean, him being a
now.
time traveler.
Yeah, a time traveler. I don't believe it's going to happen now, or really ever. I think it's more or less something to think about.
With the way the trajectory is going, I don't. The Agenda 2030 has less legitimacy with the way things are going, and I hope to God that it doesn't come to pass. But it is still something to keep an eye on, I guess I would say.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously, and hopefully things continue to take a course of good. We don't have to worry about that. 2030 comes and we're still here.
I mean, we can still be here. You can still
Fair
reporting on the
enough.
news. I just think, like, at the end of the day, I don't think you should give up on faith, because if you give up on faith, then everyone forgets.
No, never. I do think at the end of the day, like, despite my doubts, I still have faith. And I think we should all have faith. But we should not be so ignorant as to be caught off guard, so to say. Like, I believe that good always triumphs evil at the end of the day. And I think that good is triumphing evil. And that's why, yeah, like you said, we can't lose faith. Because if we lose faith, then nothing good's going to come from that.
So bring us to the most important topic, I believe. And all presidents bless the wall. We could just keep it there.
Besides JFK.
Besides JFK. And he was a Democrat.
And look what happened to him.
Look what happened to him. And then Nixon was framed, and Carter was a toy. Reagan was shot. Even Trump was shot. But I think the fact of the matter is, what's the common conclusion?
The common denominator?
Well, I say conclusion because at the end of the day, it's that Trump was shot at. Now, it would be denominator if he wasn't yet, but attempt on life has already happened.
So
now, was that attempt real? I don't know. Because how do you have someone who is a sharpshooter but missed?
Well, granted, we don't know if he was essentially a sharpshooter, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah, but I mean, with all the funding they have, like George Soros,
Like, how did he miss that shot?
like George Soros and all the funding they have in America, how do they fuck that up?
Yeah.
Especially now.
That goes back to the previous conversation where it's like, it's almost like, did they really want him to die? I don't know. But let's not steer. You're heading down a certain point,
I'm just saying,
blessing the wall. Let's not veer too far off from
No,
that.
no, definitely not. I'm just saying, like, at the end of the day, like, could this be? Or is he steered in the right direction? Is the second term different? I see a lot of TikTok and YouTube videos on this. I don't want to believe it. I think that's all distraction.
But it is good to bring up the fact that he is doing that. He has done that.
But we all have to do it.
Bless the wall?
Well, in a sense that in America, if you say anything negative towards a group, you get attacked, regardless of the group nowadays. There's a lot of anti-white hate, and everyone hates you anyways. So you really can't say much. I mean, unless it's TikTok or like Instagram comments, you really can't say much. You got to be careful.
Yeah, and even then you have to have a fake account, and the public won't know, but
And on top of that,
they still got you.
And on top of that, you kind of move forward where it's like, if you have your own channel, I mean, you can get demonetized, you can get attacked. I mean, even like that Joey Soul guy on TikTok where like, he mentioned like, gosh, I forget what he meant. He said, he says something like, I don't even want to repeat it, but like, someone in a gym came by and he said like, someone said a comment from like a colored person or something like random. But the way he said it, everyone attacked him for it. It was like crazy because he had like 7 million followers follows on TikTok. It made zero sense. But you got to be careful nowadays because you can't really talk about politics. You can't talk about certain groups. We're getting to the point where we're so locked down, like the EU. It's like, what can you talk about? I think that's what's very fearful nowadays.
I agree. I think that we've talked a lot today, a lot of great topics. Not too far deep to where we can get deplatformed. Granted, we just started today, essentially. But I think that there's a lot to take away from this conversation. A lot of clips are going to be made. I'm glad we did this. I think that at the end of the day, it was a long time coming. I mean, we've talked about it for so long. I think we just finally did it out of the blue. And this is really not the first conversation we've had for this channel, but it's the first one that we've aired live. And I think there's many more to come. I think that this can become something great. And I'm looking forward to seeing what happens from this, what comes from this. But I do have to get going because I got to eat. I know you have something to do. It's at 7 or 7:30?
It's 7, but we don't have to do 7.
Wait, what? Are you going to do it or no?
Nah,
No?
fuck it.
Okay. I still got to go get some
fuck.
stuff, though. So, irregardless, you can do it here or you can do it at your house. Up to you. But at the end of the day, we are going to wrap it up. We're going to hit the 3-hour mark.
Well,
So, I mean, that's a great first episode.
yeah.
Great first conversation. And I'm excited for what's to come. So, final thoughts?
No, thanks for showing up. Thanks for coming. And there's a lot more topics coming forward. A lot more discussion. Maybe once a week. What do you think?
We can do it once a week. I know we haven't decided on a specific time. I think we agreed that for now we'll do it sporadically or just whenever we have time. But, I mean, like today's Friday. We had some time. So, but there's going to be some great stuff to come from it. So, thank you for tuning in. If you have live, if you haven't, and you're watching this after, we're great. We're glad to have you, and we're glad to have some conversations in the future. But we'll wrap it up here. I got to eat, get some stuff,
Sounds good.
and we'll talk more later.